All right, what is going on, everybody? I don't know why my image was so small right there. Off to a great start. We are back. Welcome back to the Serious Angler Podcast, powered by the folks at X2 Power Batteries. And unfortunately, we are again captainless. Andy is battling some fun stuff going on right now, sickness-wise. So we are without the captain tonight. So apologies on that. I know we already got a comment in here saying, Panger, my favorite guide in the world, the same podcast. Yes, please. He's either referring to Andy, who's on every podcast, or he's referring to our guide friend, Mr. Garrett Paquette, who is going to be joining us here for the first part of tonight. Looking at it now, I think it definitely makes more sense. He's talking about Paquette. But either way, the captain's always one of our favorites, of course. But we are back with another show. We got two segments for you guys tonight. We got our pal Garrett Paquette, as I just mentioned, joining us for the first part here, catching up with him, talking about his approach to Logan Martin and his top 10 there. And I'm sure we'll have many rabbit holes that we'll get into with Garrett as he we'll talk about it with him, but he could be an interesting first hour depending what happens. But nonetheless, when we get wrapped up with Garrett, we have Mr. Adam Bartusek. If you guys have been around the show for a couple of years, you know Adam was a big part of us getting off the ground. He was a constant guest, but also was part of the fantasy fishing crew for the first year or two there. So Adam is joining us, as well as Matt Pangrac from Bass Talk Live. So we're getting both those guys on there because one, I'm going to catch up with both of them, but also two, they were team partners for the St. Jude, the Bass Classic over there that raised a whole bunch of money for the St. Jude's Foundation, and they got the dub. They won, which is a pretty stout event. There's a lot of big hammers in that event. It's definitely something to pretty cool thing to take home. So we'll be talking about that and a whole bunch of other stuff for a little part two. But a couple things for you guys before we get into the first part of our show here and get Garrett on is we mentioned last week that we were running a Blackfish gear giveaway. What we were going to do is basically you had to leave us a rating and review on MP3. And then you had bonus entries if you did for the other shows on the Serious Angler Podcast Network, like Kayak Fishing Weekly, Lure Lab, and Biz from the Bass Boat. So you got extra entries if you did that. If you've already left a review before, just send us a DM or something or an email just saying that you've already done so. We added you into the running. Basically, what I'm telling you is you got until the end of the show. Please let me know, because I'm going to, during our midsection here, I'm going to pick a winner, and we're going to announce the winner at the end of the show. I will try to, if that person has a contact info, I will try to contact them either via social or on here, but also we'll just announce that on social media and on here if they're listening. If you do listen, it's your name, you've won, reach out to us. We'll get you hooked up. Again, it's 2 Blackfish Gear Sun hoodies that you get to choose your model and size and color. So we're leaving it pretty open-ended for y'all. But beyond that, right now, if you are a Omnia Fishing Premium Pro member, which we've talked to you guys at length of the advantages of it, right now you can get $200 off of the Shimano Metanium DCs right now. So if you're looking for a wicked nice reel, you're looking at these reels like, man, these things are so much freaking money. You don't want to pay that much. Well, now you get basically almost have it half off, which is quite a steal for a reel of that price. So now you can take advantage of it if you're a pro member. But regardless if you're a pro member or not, they're also doing 20% off of swim jigs and spinner baits. Perfect time being the spring, going into summer. And that is going to last until May 14th. So you have a good week from today to take advantage of that sale. But some fun stuff happening down there at the Omnia Fishing Folk. And I think without further ado, let me get our first guest on here for tonight, Mr. Garrett Paquette. What's going on, man?
How you doing, man? It's been a minute, hasn't it?
It's been a little while, and we talked about this with somebody a while back, but dude, there's so many guests. I have like a laundry list of guests that I absolutely love having on. And if I could, if it was humanly possible, I'd have them on every week. But if I did that, there'd be like 60 people on every show. So it's one of those things. I feel guilty though sometimes, because there's like guys like yourself that I want to have on consistently. Then you get down like a 3-month rabbit hole, and it's like, oh damn, we haven't had Garrett on forever. But dude, it's good to get you back on here. But
I appreciate it. Yeah,
hopefully
I do want
tornadoes
to
are not
start
joining
by
you.
saying I do want to start by saying if I randomly become disconnected or like a tree comes across the screen, there is tornadoes I think all around my house, which is kind of we never have had a tornado, but don't be alarmed. That's just what's happening tonight. So there's that.
Garrett has already said he's taking one for the team tonight so that we can have a viral clip of a tree coming through his house on our live show. Hopefully no tornadoes are joining the show with you tonight. Hopefully none.
No, it should be fine.
Well, tornadoes aside, how has Old Michigan been treating you thus far this spring?
It's been good. Yeah, it's I just like you said, I was kind of at the open, and I feel like it was a little unfortunate because that was like the 2 best weeks of fishing, probably. Just that end of April, early May is always special, and I kind of missed out on that. But I'm sure it's like most places. It's been good. It's been a little different though. Like it was extremely warm in March, early March for us, and it kind of pushed some things along. And then April got really cold and kind of got things back to normal. And then now it's super hot again. Like we just had a bunch of fish come up on beds last week, which is pretty early for us. Usually we're like mid-May mid-March, or mid-May. Yeah, it is May. Yeah, mid-May, end of May. We're looking at bed fish, and it sounds like I haven't been out, in 10, 12 days, but it sounds like they're just littered everywhere. So, which sucks. I love the pre-spawn fishing. That's my favorite thing to do around here, and I kind of missed out on that. And then St. Clair has been, it's always good. It's always, it's, obviously it's premier, but we've had kind of like an invasive algae come in this season to where a lot of the good fishing spots, you can't even touch the bottom with your baits, or you have algae on it instantly. So that's kind of been a pain in the butt to deal with. So we're kind of re-fishing St. Clair using jerk baits, flukes, drop shot, of course, but the bottom fishing, like with Ned rigs and swim baits, is kind of thrown out the window. So that's been a little bit of a change that I didn't see coming.
Dang, and then on top of obviously the St. Clair pressure, it's probably pretty tricky right now.
Yeah, it is. It feels like everyone from Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, anywhere within 500 miles is here to fish, and they should be. It's just awesome. It's like an endless supply of smallmouth, but it's been slightly different, which is fine. It gives you something new to figure out. But that's been what's happened in Michigan. I'm going to be out there starting tomorrow for the next, I think, like 12 days straight, doing a bunch of guide trips and tearing them up.
Heck yeah, dude. We were last night we had our fantasy fishing preview for Murray, and I don't know how we got down this rabbit hole, but we started teasing people from other states, like you were talking about, like Ohio and PA, that go to different states to fish because their states suck. And so I always love just teasing my buddies, like Tanner Ward's a hammer from Ohio. They always come up to New York to fish the worst lake in New York.
Right on.
So I always tease people like, go fish.
What's that, Chautauqua?
Yeah, exactly. It's funny how you know it. Used to be a great lake, but now it's just wretched. But usually you don't hear that about New York fishing anyway. That's bad. But I hear you though on that. It's like this year, granted, I don't have even close to the schedule to you guys do from an open standpoint or anything like that. But I jumped in a bunch of like local stuff and travel around a little bit. It was down at Norman, Murray, things like that. Down like the prime time of when it's going down up here in New York in the Finger Lakes. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, you know what, next year, I don't even know if I'm gonna like not fish any April, May tournaments just so I can go fun fish where I want to actually fish. So I totally feel you on that one.
Yeah.
But so it's already going down.
And it sucks too, because it just sucks up here because it happens so fast. You have like it's like there's ice, and then you have like it's kind of cold and it's fishing's tough, and then you have an awesome pre-spawn bite and it's like 5 days, and then it's like they're on beds. Where at least when you're down south, that period can be 2 or 3 months. But yeah, it sounds like the lake is up and it's on bed. They're on beds like crazy. That's what guys are saying. I'll know more. And St. Clair, you can kind of get by. Like I can go run into some areas where you have cooler water, but all of our inland lakes, they're so small, is the fish are all doing the same thing. If they're on beds, they're all on beds. If they're out on drops, they're out on drops. But when aside from St. Clair, whatever the one fish is doing, they're all doing. So I think I'm done with pre-spawn for this season.
Well, if that's the case for Claire, then probably a bunch of your inland lakes are probably ahead of that, right?
For sure. Yeah. but they are
Do you
largemouth.
got
So
any?
yeah, I mean, obviously most people want to go out there, but especially like a bad wind day or something. There, I have like the next county over from my house has 1,000 lakes in it, so I could just throw a dart
Yeah.
on the map and fish. And we have a lot of good fishing, but obviously people want to get out there and do that. But I'll make whatever works with the weather.
Dang. So is it almost kind of like, is Michigan like a not talked about Minnesota in that respect, like in regards to how
Yeah,
many
we have
lakes you
more
guys
lakes in
have?
Minnesota. Yeah,
You do?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think we have 11,000
Holy,
lakes. They're
holy why do
10,000.
why do people not talk about that?
I don't know. They want to claim something. I would too if I was that far north.
They can't fish
But
till like next week, so yeah, they need to claim they need something to talk about.
uh, we probably don't. I'm sure their lakes are probably a little better than ours. I don't know. We have some really good ones, but we have a lot of ours aren't as remote. Almost ours are developed. A lot of docks, highly pressured fisheries. So maybe not as fun to fish, but obviously this time
Yeah.
of year it's all good.
Yeah, I did some exploring actually, Southern Michigan, when the around the time that Serious Angler actually began, which was around the time that I actually first got you on the show. I think
Mhm.
you were back in like the
Yeah,
30s or
most
something
definitely.
like that. But did some exploring on Southern Michigan when I was back at Notre Dame for my internship. And I would take my little Ultima up to those lakes and trying to find ones that I wouldn't get kicked off of and go bank
Really,
fish
yeah.
for a couple hours. But yeah. Yeah, I guess to your point, there are a lot of lakes in Michigan.
Hmm.
Uh, maybe we'll have to start a riff now, Michigan versus Minnesota.
Let's do it.
The
Yeah.
battle of number of lakes. But
I don't know what they
uh
consider a lake. I think that's where we get them. Like it's like some loophole, but we'll take it. You got to.
what's the threshold that takes a pond to a lake? Like what is the square
Right. I don't
footage
know.
that
It's
changes that?
probably some size, 30 acres or so. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah, we'll leave that for the smart people. We're gonna talk fishing. So dude, let's talk talking about Logan Martin, man. I was actually really intrigued. Obviously we were planning this show for a couple weeks now, but
mhm,
one, you had a great finish at Logan Martin. And in your post on it, I was really intrigued. And one, dude, I've always been a fan, one, of you as a person, but two, uh, I'm an electronics guy. And so
mhm.
I eat up all of your posts, especially with your side imaging, the 360 stuff that you put out there. Because if you guys don't follow Garrett, you need to. The link's down below. But he posts his screenshots of like side imaging or 360 and things that are going on, gives you a good kind of depiction of what's happening, but also will drop in his settings there for you too. So it's kind of like can help you along. And I've
Mhm.
definitely copied those before. But
Yeah, it was. Or go
but
ahead. I would say it
I
was a
think
good
we're on a
week.
lag
Yeah,
here.
I finished seventh. And I think I told a lot of people before the season like that was when I was looking forward to, which I don't think anyone was believing me. But I've been there. I stopped there before Gunnersville Elite the exact same week. I think in 2021, and I fished it like 4 hours for 2 days. So I had like 8 hours total on the lake. And I think I went out there and I caught 18 pounds of spots day one and like 17 and a half day two. And I didn't really know much of the lake. I just literally stopped there and fished. So that's all I had to go off of. I didn't really do, I mean, I did my research and stuff, but there wasn't a lot to see. So I'm just thinking, all right, we're going to this lake. It's absolutely loaded with spotted bass, which is something I love. And I've already done pretty good here, according to the tournament results. According to the tournament results, I can win like every tournament ever on this lake. Okay, for what I saw. So I was feeling really good. And it's that time of year where I tend to do, probably some of my better work in tournaments that post spawn, fish just coming offshore. That seems to kind of line up right with me. So I figured it could be a good event. And yeah, I went out there and the first thing, of course, I tried to do was exactly what I did when I was there 3 years earlier, and it did not work at all. So like right away, which always happens, it's never going to be the same. But like right away, I go out there, fish a couple like the little road beds and rocky areas where I caught those big fish, and just didn't catch anything. So I'm like, not depressed, but I'm like, dang, that's just once again, you're gonna have to like work for it a little bit. I know it's weird in tournament fishing, but sometimes you gotta like work hard to do well. It sucks, but here we are. Uh, so, but like right away, I kind of just got fortunate. I just got it like rolling right away. Like from the first day, I just, I kind of put my eggs into the offshore basket, which is what I try to do always when I go to these tournaments, just because that doesn't seem to change as much. So the first 2 days, I'll scan around a lot, fish offshore a lot, and then as the practice gets closer to the tournament, I'll really start fishing hard, especially up shallow, just because so much changes. Got there, there's so much pressure in these big events that I don't want to go too crazy. But yeah, the first day, I kind of figured out like there was a bunch of spotted bass and 8 to 10 foot on these secondary points, and there was like some kind of threadfin spawn on these secondary points. Like every fish I caught was just spin up tons of shad. And I found some of those by just fishing. And like right away, I went to trying to side image. And like I literally caught some fish, saw them come up on live, come up on 360. And I was like, I gotta, so the first thing I did was I tried to side image and I could not see anything, which was really odd. Like it was just like they weren't on the sonar. And like I stood back up, started fishing. And once I threw my bait in there, they all came up again and I can see them. And I went back through, tried side imaging, couldn't see them. So like right away, I kind of realized, okay, like, you can side image this lake, but you might miss some stuff. And I think that's kind of what like gave me an edge. So I would go over some of these areas, and if I really felt confident, I would just fish them. And I'd throw like a glide bait, like I had the KGB or even the Demiki, but I just wanted to get anything over the spots. And, when that bait was coming through, they'd all just lift up. And even if they didn't bite, it just told me where the school was. And, they don't need to bite in practice. I just want to mark as many as I could. So I figured that out early and just kind of kept turning into more. Like I figured the threadfin spawn was on those secondary gravelly, sandy points. And then I turned it into some main lake red clay banks and clay points, had gizzard shad spawn on them. And I was catching spots that were literally spitting up shad this long. Like I've never seen anything like it. Like they were 8 and 9 inch shad these things were eating. So I figured that out. And then which that was really hard to find. And those fish were hard to catch, but they were all big. But had a couple of those spots. And then later in practice, I started finding them on the main river ledges. Like they were just showing up like it was the TVA. So I kind of had just a little bit of hodgepodge of offshore spots. And in the tournament, I was just able to rotate, the different deals. And one was working. I was able to kind of hit a couple of those that were similar to that and just kind of make it work. And it was a good event. But I think the key was not getting keyed in, like, and I love side imaging, like that's my bread and butter. But in this tournament, it was more of a fishing to find the fish, and really paying attention. Like 360 was the key. I mean, it was just like I posted one of the pictures. If you guys saw, I mean, you'd throw the glide bait out there, and you would just see like 20 shadows come up. And that's what those schools of fish look like on that. And that was super key. Like some of the stuff seemed obvious to me after I found it, which it wasn't. But like if you were to look on the map, I mean, some of the spots were super obvious and no one ever fished them in the tournament with me. I think they just, they were you just couldn't side image them. So if I wanted to figure that out day one, I probably missed a lot of those areas.
So you think some guys went through exactly what you're talking about and looked on side, didn't see anything?
I would, yeah. I mean, some of the stuff is just like, just very obvious structure. I mean, the mapping, pointed out plain as day.
Do you think some of the guys that have it the live on their jack plate type deals, do you think they would have seen those, or do you think that
I don't? So I mean, with my live, if I didn't know there was a school of fish there, I'm probably missing it. So like in practice, the live wasn't even the deal. It was literally all 360. And then when I could see the kind of the shadows and stuff, I could point it, start seeing very subtle bumps, almost looking like rocks. But if I didn't see this 360, I'd easily pass through that stuff.
So they were sucked to the bottom until you were able to pull that glide out.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like that's guys. That's one thing I've noticed with, and maybe I should keep this secret, but like the cleaner the bottom, the harder the fish are to see on the bottom usually. So like if you have sand or shell bed or gravel or just like barely any rock, those fish will tuck right in there. You'll hardly see them, especially with live. I mean, you hardly ever see those fish. If you have big boulders, if you have grass on the bottom, that makes those fish come up 6 inches, a foot, 2 feet, whatever, and they're easy to see. But the cleaner the bottom, the harder they are to see, and you got to pull out some tricks to see them.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I've learned from Andy, and I wish she was here tonight to talk about it. But especially like the Great Lakes, talking about
Mm-hmm.
smallmouth, is when you get on some of the sand flats and you're talking about, you have like the little dunes that come through and it's kind of like they
Yeah.
roll like waves almost on bottom. They can tuck into there and they can be sucked to the bottom. You can't see them on side because they'll blend in with that, and it's hard to
Mm-hmm.
get that reading because it's can't go over that lip. But when you can, how he finds them anyway is 2D, because you can go over them and see in
Yeah,
those
the difference.
actual lips.
That
But
makes sense.
also, like, I feel like with some guys they can find that with 360 too.
Mm-hmm.
But to that regard, like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can miss. Where I think, as much as we want to talk technology, and I really don't want to go down that rabbit hole of the whole live conversation and be another podcast that's talking about it, but I think 360 is invaluable. But I think the biggest thing is fit actually just going fishing is still always going to be a part of
Oh, for sure.
sport. Like in
Yeah.
regards to talking about how you use that glide as a search bait, which is something we've talked about on the show several times, but like how you'd be able to see those fish rise and get them to say hello to you by
Mm-hmm.
just simply throwing a bigger presentation. And I want to have you expand on that here in a second, but to your point, to reinforce this is, I know there's probably some other stories that some pros have had, but my personal experience was actually this past weekend. We fished a lake that was probably 6 to 7 foot visibility. And in practice, there's a guy that had gone down the stretch that I did really well in the tournament. And he's like, oh, when we were just chatting, I had told him where stretch where I caught these fish. And he's like, oh man, I went and practiced and it was crystal clear. And I looked around, I never saw a single fish. It was a ghost town. Which I noticed the same thing, but as soon as you pull up that glide, those fish can come out of nowhere.
Really?
Like,
Yeah.
I don't think we give them enough credit for being able to hide as well as we do. You can go through and like, oh, I don't see a fish anywhere. But man, something about that big bait, dude, it can just, I think it'll surprise you how well these fish can actually hide. To your point, like you said, you might not even known they were even there if you didn't pull it out. But like, was that something you were strictly using as a search bait to get these fish to rise and then pull out that jig head minnow, or was that something you're actually catching them on too?
It was. I think I might have caught one or two on it. None in the tournament. It was a search bait. For some reason, they would go crazy and follow it, or even not. Some of them would just come off a couple feet. But I didn't catch much. I really didn't have any intention to either. I
Mm.
didn't really sit there and really try to go after them and slow it down and twitch it. It's like I just wanted to. I mean, I was almost working it. I was almost just swimming it. Like I didn't really care how it looked. I just wanted something huge over their head, make them curious, and then show me, because I'll come
Yeah.
back with something easier to catch them on after that. Which I was surprised. I actually thought I would catch them on it because they are kind of crazy. But in the tournament, the jig head minnow is so damn effective. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to play around with the other stuff. Like I could just throw that over there and just kind of pick them off one by one. So that's what I did. I threw it at some brush piles and in some areas when I was done, and they would get on it. But we had like no current. We had no wind most of the days. It was straight sun. It
Mm.
wasn't really the right conditions. But as a search
Yeah.
tool, it was phenomenal.
Oh boy, wrong pipe. Perfect timing. Expand on as I'm choking here. You guys know when you swallow water and it goes down the wrong pipe. Never had this happen on a podcast before. Talk
like
about
5 minutes
talk
for me.
about like, were you using that glide in regard to, would you actually pitch it out, have them rise, and then throw the jig head minnow, or would you simply just come back around once they've risen up a little bit and solely fish the jig head minnow? If that makes sense.
Yeah. So in practice, they'd come up and I'd throw it back in there just because there was like 30 of them on most of these spots. So, a couple would come up, look at it. I wouldn't catch those ones, but you'd see a bunch of them in the area and throw it out there and just catch one or two, check the size. In the tournament itself, I just started with a jig head minnow. I would literally start. I just have the waypoint from where the fish were. I'd start fishing, and it felt weird because I didn't see anything. Like I'd literally pull up. I'm looking around with 360 with live. I don't see anything, and I throw the jig head minnow, just trusting the waypoint, and then all the fish would come out, and I'd catch one. But yeah. So in the tournament, it didn't really play a whole lot, but in practice, it was pull them out, catch a couple. Maybe, and that might not be the best way to attack that situation, but in practice, you can kind of kind of be quick and a little bit sloppy. I'm not trying to be the most effective. I'm just trying to get a couple clues and move on and find the next area.
Yeah, like I know some people with smallmouth, more speaking on team tournaments because it's quite a tall task to try and do this when you're solo, but they'll use the glide as a means to, like when you're going on a stretch and say you're throwing a spy bait or hair, jerk bait, whatever. Sometimes it can be hard to get those bigger fish to get up and noticeable and get fired up. Where one guy will be throwing the glide with no intention of catching anything, just for those bigger fish to show themselves, and then the second guy throws a follow up, which is probably something a little bit secretive, but I know it's something that I've seen some guys try to do solo. So I was just curious if that was something that you implemented in the tournament. But with the jig head minnow, is it something that you were literally just casting and rolling? Like, was it a certain depth that you were keeping this at, or is it basically you were just casting around blind and just reeling? Like, was there any sort of like cadence to it?
Yeah, so I would know where the spot is right that I want to cast. I just throw it out there. I'd keep it like a foot off the bottom. And and I had an 8th ounce head, so I was working a reel, so I'm almost hovering it. I'm just, I kind of have my twitch or, whatever. It's like hard to explain the twitch, but you know it when you
Mhm.
know it. I'm just kind of twitching it. And all of a sudden something would come off the bottom. And you just kind of tease them into it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I noticed like in practice, I noticed they wanted to hit it or they wanted to start it at the bottom. Sometimes they want it like middle of the water column, but they seem to want me to get real close. And then once they came up, I'd kind of keep bringing it until they bought it, or bit it. But I would just, I'd throw it out there,
Mhm.
put off the bottom, and just, I call it ghost Mickeying is what I call. So I'm watching it, but I'm not really seeing any fish, and then I'm kind of hoping the fish come out of nowhere on it.
Quite literally chasing ghosts, if you
Yeah,
will.
yeah. But those schools of
Well,
fish, they were, even though you couldn't see them, they were like dead on every day for the most part on where I found them the first time.
yeah, and I love that saying too, because one of our guests for the latter half of the show, Adam Bartusek, literally has a series that he did called Chasing Ghosts, where he basically you go and chase Cisco chasers for
Oh,
smallmouth.
nice. Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, no, dude, I love that. I love that, just like confidence in regard to what you found in an area. And I feel like, which is kind of crazy, like in regard to saying it might be somewhat old school, where you're basically just fishing, and I think new age, some guys might be scared of what you're talking about, where they might pan around, not see anything, and they might ditch, where you had enough of that intuition to know that what you saw in practice, how those fish were behaving, you knew they were there. It's just a
yeah.
matter of getting to just come out of their shell.
Hmm. And like, so my travel partner Chris, we were both doing the same thing, and we didn't. I mean, we didn't set the world on fire in practice, but we caught like a lot of 2.5 pounders, um, and high 2 pounders and stuff. So like, we were kind of thinking that it was going to be like everyone had 12.5 pounds, 13 pounds, and like when I think I had 13 and a quarter day one, and I literally told my towing there, I'm like, dude, I'm gonna be happy with 60th. And I'm guessing I'm going to be like 70th to 90th, just based off what we saw in practice. And I came in, I'm in 21st or something, 22nd. And I think that that's because of that strategy. Like, I think if the traditional way to fish now is to see the fish. That's how,
Mhm.
that's how I normally fish too. But I think that that was just a lot of 1.5 to 2 pound fish. Like, everybody was stacked at 8.5 to 11 pounds in that tournament. And I think maybe those better fish, you know, they were easier to catch doing the style of fishing we were doing. So like we kind of, I mean, we didn't think it was easy by any means. It's never easy, but we caught a ton of better than 2 pound fish doing that. And, just kind of maybe had like the, a better feel on, or not the better feel, but we had like the wrong feel on maybe what the majority of the guys were doing. So like we were kind of almost like a little shocked on not how low the weights were, I guess. And that's like the first time in the last 4 years that I felt that way. But that's just
Wow.
simply not because we were the world's best fisherman. We just kind of got on this deal and it was just working. So it was kind of nice for once to come in the weigh in and be like, wow, I didn't have like the most special day ever in my standards, but like I'm actually doing good in the tournament. Usually you come in and you're like, I just grinded as hard as I could and I'm in 140th because everyone's so good. Like that's usually how these go nowadays.
Yeah, that's one thing I want to talk about is the current competition of the opens. But before we do, Jim Lopez here is asking one You hit on the cadence, how you're just swimming your swim bait, but talk about your setup for that glide, but also the setup for the jig head minnow as well.
Okay, yeah. So cadence with swim bait. I'll just do it all. So yeah, the cadence with the glide bait. I work them similar to like a jerk bait with less rod. So it's more like I'm still kind of pushing the rod down, but it's a lot of real like little half turns, half turns, half turns. And then if the fish comes for it, I'll speed it up, or like maybe I'll jerk it hard and stop it. But it's essentially like a less of an action than a jerk bait with my rod and reel. But the bait, of course, is going crazy. But I work it like a jerk bait. I'm not. That's how I do it. I don't. Some guys are probably a lot better than me. And on that, I got a 784 Douglas LRS, which is probably it's 784 is misleading. It's like a 7.8 heavy, maybe a little heavier than a heavy with like a deep crankbait bend almost to it. So it's a big, strong rod, could easily handle a 3-ounce bait, but has a deep bend and you won't pull the hooks out. And then just a big casting reel, 20-pound sunline shooter, which is a little stiffer of a fluorocarbon than the sniper, but I like it because it doesn't stretch and it gives that bait better action. And then on the Damiki 1/8-ounce Gamakatsu ball head, I threw a ton of baits, like the 4-inch Big Bite Sensation minnow was a big one. Rotated through some crazy Japanese stuff, some crappie baits, whatever I could do to get bit. But the cadence on that is like it's almost like to be honest, you should just watch Koya fish and not have me talk about it. But I really try to mimic him, and I'm getting closer. I'll never be there, but I'm getting better. And it's kind of like this downward twitch, and it's just like a constant reel, and just it's really about finding the right slack while you're twitching. Like you want it tight, you don't want it too tight, you don't want it too loose, but you just got to go out. Yeah, you want your bait just to kind of roll, and it's just a gentle, easy roll. And then when they come, you just kind of speed it up and kind of rise the bait, and just you just want the fish to kind of swim to the bait, and it gets heavy. And I know it's really vague to say that. It's like I can't really even explain the technique, but it's just like a subtle twitch and reel. And on that, I got a 6.8 medium light Douglas X Matrix, 10-pound Sunline braid to 8 to 10-pound Sunline sniper leader, short leader, like a 4-footer.
Oh wow, okay, so pretty short. Was there any reason why it was so short?
Because he has a short one, and I'm just trying to copy Koya at this point. So he says it's more action. His is like 12 inches. I don't feel comfortable with that, so I'm like, I'll do 4 feet. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, it's crazy because you got guys that talk about like, oh, dude, like I feel like I get more bites when I have a 20-foot leader, and here's Master Finesse himself, and he's got 12-inch leader.
Well, that's how I was. Yeah, I felt like more bites to the longer leader, and then I saw him fishing. I was like, that's not true because he's killing everybody.
Yeah, and it was like I think it was Toledo they were talking about. He had like 15-pound braid, I believe it was, or 15-pound braid to 16-pound fluoro or something. I'm probably butchering that, but it's around that.
No,
range
you're right.
anyway.
It might even be like 10-pound to like a 16-pound fluoro. It's a very heavy fluoro that he uses most of the times.
Yeah, which I think people were very shocked by. Which watch him just like saying that just so people stop throwing light line because there's there's guys like because there's guys too that are out there throwing 6, and they're catching them all the same. I think it's just time. Like in your point, I think it's just somebody that's put in the time to learn the different cadences of things and learn how those fish react to those baits on live, when to throw something bigger, throw smaller, because really it started out as this little micro bait, guys throwing like the baby Z2s and things like that. And now it's like you're seeing these, what I think they're Raid is the one that makes them, but like the ones that are like 8 inches long that guys are throwing now. Like it just keeps getting like it's just crazy, this rabbit hole we're in. But the baits that you mentioned anyway, I have those linked down below to Omnia. People want to go grab them. The baits that you did well in the tournament with. But getting back to what we were talking about with the opens, it's you yourself, you're a dang hammer. You're a former Elite Series pro that did fairly well in several tournaments. And like looking at the lineup of people, man, like it's freaking stout. What is it like? Because you've been in the opens gauntlet, obviously to qualify for the elites, and then trying to get back on here. What's been the progression like from your eyes? Like what has been the biggest change? And was it gradual or was it like year by like 1 year?
I'd say It was, I mean, the sport's always gotten better every year, but it seemed like last year in the EQs, it was like, or the first year of the EQs, like it just went through the roof. And I'm sitting there like, because like you have a good, like I've been doing this for a long time now, you know, and you have a good gauge of when you get off the water, like of how the lake's fishing and how your weight is and where you're going to be. And there was just a lot of times last year where I'm coming in and it's like I'm like doing worse than I was on the Elite Series, and I'm thinking like, it's like a very humbling thing because you're like, this shouldn't be this way, like what's going on, and I just kind of figured out. I was like, man, maybe I'm just like slipping. I don't know. Like this is just kind of weird, and obviously now looking at this year on the Elites, it wasn't a coincidence, like obviously pretty much all eight or nine of those guys are going to make the classic that qualified. So the way that they designed this tournament program, it's exactly what they want. They're going to create, this ultra competitive environment to push the best guys in the world into the Elite Series. So but that's a lot of fun. Like I sit here and I look at, being in this situation, and it's super hard to just get a check. It's incredibly hard to get top tens to win, all that stuff. And I've had plenty of opportunity to go a different route in fishing as far as what trail I'm fishing. Like definitely for as far as financial stability goes, I've had way easier, or not easier, but different routes to go with different trails. And the reason I'm into fishing is to see how I stack up against the best in the world. So I think this is where I need to be, and then to qualify for the Elite Series and continue doing that, and that kind of goes with that. So it's been a lot of fun. It's made it's made me completely reevaluate the way I fish, and I'm probably a little bit behind on the tech as far as some guys, just because I've been doing it more, and I probably have more bad habits, or more things I want to hold on to going into these events. But I've I feel like I've made some really good progression the last, I don't know, say 18 months that I'm excited to kind of show off on some of these events. I've had some really close calls. It felt like the first three tournaments I had like the three best practices of my life, and thought I was going to have some really special events, and it just didn't come together. And it's nice to kind of get this one and have a good event, and hopefully get it rolling a little bit.
Well, it seems like it reinforces the good practice curse.
Yeah.
Like you're saying Logan Martin, how it sucked and you had a top 10.
Hmm.
It's funny how I keep seeing instances like that over and over and over again. But due to your point, like I don't think it's a discredit to you or what you've been doing. I think it's a highlight to what everybody's been talking about, and that fishing's changing. But
Hmm.
we had Buddy Gross on the show last week, and he talked about exactly like I think if we put a 30-second transcript of what you just said versus what Buddy said, it's probably pretty damn close to the same thought process of, they think they're behind in regards to the current tech, where they've been masters. Like you guys have been the masters of side imaging 360. I'd put you in that bucket with guys that are very, very good at being at the console, seeing things on side imaging, seeing things on 360. And that's where Buddy thinks that the age of the guy at the console putting in time on side imaging and down imaging, things like that, is over. Thinks it's a forward game, which is it's cool, but it's also sucky in that regard, because
Yeah.
I do
It
think there's something to the
Sorry.
grind, of a guy
Yeah.
like yourself or a Buddy. There's the respect to the guy that's willing to put in the hours and hours and hours on end of searching, aside. There's something about that. That's one that's fun, because there is something I think, I'm sure you can talk to it too, like finding that needle in a haystack on side. There's just something about it that's just satisfying. But yeah, I don't know. Am I off base with that?
I would say for the next few years you're dead on. But hold on, you're not off base about finding the needle in the haystack. There's nothing better than idling for 6 hours and having like heat stroke down on Kentucky Lake, and then all of a sudden, when you're ready to give up, a bunch of little dots just show up. That is amazing. But I think with forward sonar on these lakes right now, they're just vulnerable. I think we're quick to just dismiss how it was when Lake Master came out for the TVA and side imaging. They found schools that were half a mile long of bass, and you just go there and literally catch them every cast until they stop biting. And then you would leave and go to the next school and catch them every cast. You wouldn't even think about changing baits or colors like that. If you talk to the old school ledge guys, that's how it was. So we might be in that era for the forward sonar, or maybe not. Maybe it just stays forever. But I think Mother Nature will always slightly change to protect itself. So it might just not have changed yet. And in 4 years, we might be like, dude, I can't believe we could catch them on live scope. Like, what's going on? But I think, I think it's not fair to discredit a lot of the younger talent in the sport because the forward sonar might just be hitting at the right time. You might actually just be seeing the first real generation of people that have dedicated their lives to bass fishing coming in. The days of like, even me, like I really went at it hard when I was 16 probably, but my goal was to be a professional hockey player. And I was like, oh shoot, my dad's 5'8". I'm gonna be 150 pounds. This ain't gonna work, So I better try getting competitive with something else. And there's a lot of stories, guys are, hey, I hated my job when I was 30, so I quit and fished the elites. And I think now you might be seeing a lot of kids that are coming in, and when they were 5 years old, their goals were to fish. They didn't play sports. Their whole lives were dedicated to this. So I wouldn't be so quick to, and I'm not saying to you, but just for everyone, I wouldn't be so quick to discredit these guys because I think you're seeing a true athlete approach to the sport now, where guys are truly committing everything. They're not partying, they're not having relationships, they're spending 300 days a year at it, and they're figuring it out.
Yeah, no, I completely agree 100% on that. And that's one I think we've been talking about. I think people that understand the sport will all agree on that. I don't think this has anything to do with anglers. Anglers are going to adjust with the times, but like to your point though about the hockey thing, like I think you look at the current state of the NHL, like that's a whole new generation or age now too with that. Like 5'8", 150 pounds, he might be fine in the current state of the NHL.
I might have been in the wrong
there isn't that much physicality anymore, Like, yeah. Look at some of the rookie class from this past year. They're all small for the most part.
Right.
Besides what's his face from the Rangers. I think that he's just an anomaly. I'm trying to remember his name.
That's fun, isn't it? They might be on. I have to go watch that game.
Yeah. Playoffs are always incredible. Don't get me down rabbit hole because we're getting on another hockey guy here. And we'll be on that for forever. But yeah, dude, I completely agree with you. But it's gonna be interesting to see where it goes with that, especially opens wise down the next couple of years. And it's
it's not getting any easier. It's you're just gonna have to dedicate to it to do well. You're not. I don't know what else to say besides that. It's just going to take more dedication, and more time than ever. And, some guys can do it. Some guys, financially can't. Some guys mentally can. It's going to weed out a lot of guys. There's going to be a lot of turnover in the sport. It might become a sport like the NFL where the average career is 2 to 3 years. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's certainly changing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And I think that's part of why there is some of the whole negative conversation around it. Some people might, I think that's just a scapegoat for some people that are just worrisome about their careers. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, if that was somebody where I'm not up to snuff with that, like, yeah, I'd be worried about it too, but I think there's definitely some wrong approaches being made. But I think the people like yourself will accept of what change is coming and try to do their damnedest to get up to speed on that, So it's But again, that's been kind of. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're going on a rabbit hole, but the whole basis of this sport is to create products to catch more fish, right? That's literally number one. And then the idea of it is, the kind of like the golden saying is, it's all about time on the water, time on the water, time on the water. So to like kind of stray away from those two things all of a sudden, because some guys we're not familiar with are doing well, is super dangerous in my opinion.
Yeah, we've said this multiple times on here, and I find it hilarious. And Mercer has a great point of it, where it's like, it seems like lately we always try to avoid the forward facing sonar conversation, but then for whatever reason, it just comes back into our lives. Like Andy made the analogy last night that it's like the Thanos. It's just inevitable. Like it's just going to happen. If you're going to talk about fishing today, but yeah, it's never, I don't think this has ever been an angler problem. And I don't think it ever will be an angler problem. This is, if there's anything to talk about the whole tech thing, it's a trail and it's the company came with the product. Like it's, and there's really no blame to that. It's just sports progressing, and some people like change, some people don't.
Right.
But yeah, but we'll put that to the side because we're trying to.
Yeah, because you said we were going to be here for an hour. We might end up being here for like 3-4 hours. Sorry, Pangrac.
Yeah, we might have to bring the boys in now before we go too long. But I guess looking ahead, the remainder of the schedule, getting back in the right direction after Logan Martin. Obviously coming home to St. Clair for one of the events, but how you feeling about the last remainder of the season?
I feel really good. I told a lot of people coming into this year, I said the first 3 are scary. Not because I don't feel like I can do well on them, but you got Okeechobee, which like Florida's always tricky, and I just suck in Florida at this point. Like I just suck in Florida. So you had Okeechobee, you had Washita, which is should have set up pretty well for me, but those cold water events, I fished enough of them to know that crazy stuff happens. You get floods, you get ice, you get, things that are hard to deal with. And then Santee Cooper, another one that was easy to bomb. So I figured the first 3 were going to be not hard, but just probably the hardest to be consistent in, to put it that way. So we got those out of the way. The rest of the schedule, I feel really good about. Like Eufaula, we were there last year the exact same time. I felt like I was really close to doing well and just missed a little bit and kind of came home and worked on what I missed on. So I feel pretty good about there. Obviously St. Clair. I've only fished. I mean, we had 2 elites there and kind of didn't go my way. So I've kind of worked at that a couple of years, and hopefully I can kind of show what I've learned. And then Leech should be amazing. I've only heard good things about there. Upper or Mississippi River, I've never been, but another one that should be right up my wheelhouse. And then Hartwell and in the fall, I've been there a couple of times that time of year. So I have no excuses to finish the season strong. I don't know, how it's going to work out, but if I finish in the top 40 for the next, or get a check for the rest of the season, it might be real interesting the way it's looking. So
yeah, I think the only thing you'd ever want to change on the schedule is start it off in Texas or starting off in Florida. Like if you could just take the elite schedule, I think your butt would be on the elites next year.
And even the Okeechobee, the Okeechobee tournament is like so disheartening because I literally only had 2 areas. I had a tough practice, but I had 2 areas. I'm like, I'm going to spend like half my day here, half my day here. One of the areas was 200 feet from Scott Martin, and the other areas was where 4 of the top 20 were fishing. So it, I've been around them every tournament. I just haven't been putting it together during the tournament. So that's why this was kind of nice to have happen and just get things moving again.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing that everybody says about Florida, right? Is you can be literally 20 feet off from a 30-pound bag and catch 10 pounds.
And I can't fish slow anyways. And I know that, but you gotta just fish so slow.
Yeah, but there's those pictures, dude, of like literally 100-yard stretch and there's 80 boats, like half the field's right there.
That was, I've never seen anything like that. That was crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty absurd. Well, dude, before we wrap up here, is there anything the folks should know coming up, or how they say if they want to come and get a guide trip with you up on St. Clair? What's the best way to get in touch with you, and anything coming up that people should look out for?
Yeah, if you want to go down St. Clair, just reach out through social media. Really, right now, working on a website. Don't have anything up yet, but Facebook or Instagram, G Paquette Fishing. We'll make it happen. We'll go out and crush some smallmouth. Aside from what's coming up, I don't. Just kind of hanging out here. Going to run as many guide trips as I can. And then, the 5 opens that we mentioned, and life is good. And it looks like I didn't get hit with the tornado. So I can't complain.
Well, yeah, we made through the show tornado list, but hopefully the remainder of your day stays the same there.
I think we are. No, hopefully the rumbling's gone. I think I survived. Hopefully.
Good. Well, dude, it's been good to catch up, and hopefully your first year as a married man is also going well.
It's going well, definitely. Same to you as well, I may add.
Yeah. We were just sitting there like offline. We were chit-chatting about it seemed like literally for whatever reason that was over the winter we had both gotten married. So we both realized it was 6+ months ago.
Yeah.
I guess it's how much time flies these days.
Year's
But
coming up.
yeah, getting old. Well, buddy, it was really good to catch up with you and chat, and we got to make this more of a consistent thing, man.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for following, guys, and yeah, we'll see you soon.
All right, pal. We'll talk to you soon.
We'll see you.
All right, folks. Mr. Garrett Paquette. I know we were captainless for tonight, but always good to catch up with some old friends, and we got more of that to do for the remainder of the show here. But if you guys haven't already, and you're not following Garrett, the social media and all the products that he used for that open on Logan Martin are linked down below. Highly encourage you guys to follow him. Like I mentioned, in addition to obviously just the content, but he does post a lot of pretty educational stuff. If you're looking to dial in your side imaging 360, down imaging, things like that, some Lake Master tips. He posts some pretty good content around that to help you guys dial that in. So encourage you to go take a look, check out some of the products that he was using from the Opens event. But the show is not over. We got another whole part 2 coming up here with some more old pals of the show. We got Mr. Matt Pangrac from Bass Talk Live and Mr. Adam Bartusek, Mr. Crappie Chronicles himself. We'll be getting on here. But quick message from X2 Power, and we'll get these boys back on the show.
In the world of battery power, a word to the wise: compromise elsewhere.
All right, guys, we are back here on Serious Angler Podcast, and we are back for the part 2 of the show. We have 2 fellows joining us here. What I'm going to do, I'm actually going to bring them on one at a time here, because I think if I bring them on both at the same time, there's going to be so much stuff going all over the place in regards to conversation. We got a bunch of fun stuff to talk about. They had a big accolade here, but also we got some catching up to do. So I think first and foremost, let's bring on one of the OGs of the Serious Angler Podcast, and then we'll bring on the his counterpart here. So first and foremost, let's bring on Mr. Adam Bartusek. What's going on, pal?
What's up, dude? It's been forever. I haven't been here in a long time. Whole screen's different. There's sponsors everywhere. This is weird.
Yeah, it's been a long time because, well, one, I think both just all busy as get out because, dude, you've blown up Crappie Chronicles. You got past the bar, which you've been, honestly, it's been one of my favorite shows as of late. And if people haven't started listening to Past the Bar, I highly encourage you to, because who wants to learn about bass fishing? You just want to go, BS with your buddies. And that's basically,
it is not educational. It really isn't. It's all entertainment.
Yeah. Well, how has been the life in the industry, videography, traveling for tournaments, which great finish on Kentucky Lake and St. Jude as well, that we'll get into here once we bring Matt on. But catch us up quick on life of Mr. Adam Bartusek before we bring Matt on.
Yeah, no, it's been really good lately, man. I mean, obviously the last couple of years, it's been a lot of videography, filming stuff for other people and everything. Kind of proud of the last year. After last year's Toyota that I did really good in, I kind of started just making steps to start kind of just really doing my own thing, going to start focusing on filming my own YouTube, fishing more tournaments for myself, and just you know what I mean? Dedicating more into doing me rather than just freelance work for other people, which is great too. But just getting more that way, and kind of the more time I spend doing that, the better it goes. So it's kind of nice to kind of get that feedback. But yeah, it's been awesome, man. The Chronicles is crazy. I can't believe how big that's gotten and where we're at now, and just riding the wave, man. It's a good time. I can't complain about it.
Yeah, that's got to be a tricky road, the transition of obviously going and freelancing, but also between changing from doing work for other people to trying to make the jump to doing your own work, but also trying to still have somewhat of a consistent paycheck, like I can understand. That's gotta be a very tricky
weird
direction.
Yeah, it's very weird because it's like I could totally just go do my own thing and just like stop doing stuff for people, but it's like you developed relationships for all these years, and it's like now you're just trying to figure out how to manage it or do stuff like that. So yeah, it's very weird compared to like when you go from the leap of like not even working in the industry to like working for yourself in the industry. This is such a minor just divergence, but it feels like such a big deal, you know? So that's kind of the weird part, but
yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, let's bring on your counterpart here, but I say the counterpart. He's also let's call him the GOAT, leading the charge here for the fishing podcast world. And a hammer in his own right, fishing the opens. We got Mr. Matt Pangrac. What's going on, sir?
That's a slight overstatement in the introduction, but I'll take it. I appreciate it. How's it going, fellas?
Good.
Appreciate you taking a night off of watching some NHL playoffs and joining.
Oh no, I got the Stars. I got the Stars hat on. The game starts at I think 8:30. So
we got
Blues didn't make the
32
playoffs.
minutes.
Blues didn't make the playoff. Well, no, I'm good for whatever. Blues didn't make the playoffs, so when they don't make the playoffs, I'm Dallas. I'm actually going to game 2 in Dallas on Thursday. So
that what you spent your Jude winnings on?
I know a guy.
When you're BTL, you just got people. You know, you just got the hook up.
It's just when you don't quit for so many years, you just start to get to know everyone when you're too dumb to quit.
Well, dude, I got to catch up a little bit, obviously, with Bart here, but life of Mr. Matt Pangrac and running all over God's green earth between opens, doing seemingly like it with MP3 and all that. It seems like there's a new BTL every single day of the week. How are you keeping up with everything, and what's been the life of Matt lately?
Yeah, I figured we should add some more BTLs this year. So I was planning on doing them last week, but didn't. But added a day 5, which is a guide day, which has been really cool getting to know some of these guys. Like we're like in this little tournament world bubble, and there's all sorts of like different side avenues. Like you've got the whole kayak world, and Adam has the ice fishing world, and you get to know some of these guys who like. I mean, it's cool just to see how many people are super passionate about what they do. And there's a lot of guides out there that do the same thing and are like extremely talented. So kind of added that guide day, looking to do about 25 additional shows this year on guide day. So, but yeah, other than that, fishing the opens, running around, I head up to South Carolina on Friday for an OBT media event. So that'll be another fun 19-hour drive. But other than that, probably the most exciting thing was I got my grass cut today, which I love cutting grass. I don't know why. Like I know Hamner like will never cut another blade of grass now the rest of his life. But like, man, I love getting on the John Deere and mowing the 2 acres.
So this is actually hilarious. So I've talked to 3 people that are technically from the South today, and all 3 of them said they cut their grass today, and that was the highlight of all their days. What is it? You guys?
It's so awesome. Like this time of year, like the humidity gets down. I cracked open a Pacifico, put the earbuds in, and then I have like a couple sections that like were a little too damp to cut, but I like made like nice circles around them so it didn't look too Oklahoma-ish. And then I mean, I like opening the blinds on the front yard and then the backyard. I'm on like a little over 2 acres and just like looking out and just seeing a fresh, clean 2 1/4 inch cut.
Bart, have you hit the old man I love to cut my grass stage yet?
I do actually really enjoy cutting the grass, but for me it's because I spend 16 hours in a row in my basement editing. So like when I get to go outside, I'm like, this is nice. Like it's not my computer screen. So mine's a little bit different for that reason. I just need a break from staring at the computer, but I haven't cut my grass yet this year. I mean, spring literally just sprung in Minnesota while Panger was here. My grass is getting long, but I have to go buy a lawnmower tomorrow. We don't even have a lawnmower. We moved into this house in November. And as you know,
gotta get a John Deere, Bart.
No, not a John Deere. No.
Why not? That's a classic.
I grew up
yellow and green.
I grew up on a pig farm, man. My dad was an international man. He hated John Deere. I can't get those colors. I can't get green.
No.
Yeah, my dad will disown me.
I would
So
have
it's got to be a
reconsidered
Toro
fishing
or
with
something.
you the last 3 years in the St. Jude if I'd known you were anti John Deere.
Is there just like some loyalty to a brand of tractors that I had no idea? Like,
in
like
the farming world. Yeah. It's kind of like Yamaha Mercury, same thing.
So there's like swim bait cults, but for tractors.
Yes. 100%.
Do you even have grass where you are, Bailey? Or is it like Arizona? It's just so cold up there, it never grows.
So we actually we have a whole week of 70s and 80s up here. It's going to drop back down in the 40s later this week, but everything's blooming up here. Water temps in this almost in the 60s in most places, so everything's rocking and rolling in the north right now. But man, I want to get into your guys' tournament here in a little bit, but I talked about it a little bit with Bart, and I want to pitch it to both of you guys, because there's all this conversation about the actual fishing part, and I'm not even going to get into that where that's at today, but want to ask you guys, kind of get your feel on where the fishing industry or outdoor industry itself is right now, where it's we had the COVID boom and things like that. It seems like more jobs were being made, and now we're kind of going on this downturn. Obviously you guys have your grasp on the industry, and you're both in your different right, where Bart freelancing with videography, kind of taking a different approach, Matt being in the industry for so long, and obviously with podcasting and working with so many industry people.
Guy now.
You said it. No.
Dude, he turns 40 soon. He turns 40.
Sorry, bud. Start calling you Papa Panger.
Hey, 30 to 40 happens real quick, Bart.
I know, I'm terrified.
Just
I'm
make
30.
good decisions. You make one bad decision in your early 30s, and all of a sudden you're 40.
Bart, you're the big 3-0.
Yeah. Yep. I turned 31 in August.
Oh, what day do you turn 31?
August 8th.
Oh, I mean 18th.
Look at that.
You guys just figured this out now.
Yeah. We were too busy culling this weekend to ask about birthdays.
I was too busy calling. Hanger's just flipping smallies over the side of my boat. I couldn't even cast half the day.
Well, we're going to get into that. That's for dang sure. But I quickly want to touch on what you guys feel like the industry itself, how it is right now. Is it still in a healthy spot, or do you think it's still difficult for folks to try and get into the industry? Because that is one thing I've seen a surplus of messages for our podcast platform, as people of reaching out, asking, how they can get in the industry, how they could get a job, where to look for jobs. And I know there's always been like the stigma of it's a lot of who especially in the outdoor industry, to get your foot in the door. But I definitely felt like it increased and got better through the COVID era. Do you think it's still in that state, or do you think now, like with fishing kind of on a downturn, do you think the industry is in the same regard?
Well, I would say, I guess I'll lead it off in saying, in terms of where the industry, in my opinion, like media side or whatever it is, I would just say, like, I try to, like, we have a lot of fun on Pass the Bar BS and about everything going on, and just kind of venting about certain things. But I think in the most part, we try to be positive about everything that's going on. And right now it feels like a lot of people are getting really negative, and it's getting really annoying. And I just kind of say, I don't really have issues calling certain people out, but I say, in a world of Randy Blockett's, be a Sam Sobey. I think that's very important. Be positive, try to get more people involved in the sport, have fun. Yeah, you can complain about some stuff if you want, but like if that's all you're known for, like, dude, it's just so exhausting. And this industry needs positivity right now. There's a lot of stuff changing, and it's good, and all we're getting told is it's bad. And it's not. Like, it's just, I feel like that's kind of the thing going on my side. So it makes the whole filming, like, it makes my job harder, filming and trying to get really cool content out there and stuff, because you put something cool out and all anyone does is complain about it. And it's like, dude, why are we why are we all exhausting right now? Like, we just like to go catch fish and have fun. So, like, if everybody would just take a step back and realize we're all doing this to go spend time on the water, have fun, and have a few beers with their buddies, I think we'd all be in a much better place than we are currently.
Yeah. I'm going to pitch it over to you, Matt, but to your point, Bart, it definitely, I agree. I hate that the age of where I think like the Hunter Shryock motocross, highlight style content is definitely still being viewed. I just hate that there's such a high priority on controversial content nowadays, where that's what people feel like they need to put out in order to do well. But yeah, to your point, I feel that. But Matt, what do you think? How are we as an industry, not just fishing wise, but industry?
I mean, you say downturn, and I know you work with some big companies, so you have an idea, but I feel like it's more like kind of returning to normal. Like there was a spike, and now it's returning to normal, which is less than it was at the peak of the one where one of like 3 things you could do without going to jail was fish. But I think it's like, what are you guys laughing?
The way you said it was good.
It's true.
It's very true. One of the 3 things that you can do without going to jail. That was,
Unless you were Michigan. So I think Michigan, they said it was illegal to go with the boat ramps. You might remember that.
Yeah. We couldn't have tournaments for 2 months, but yeah.
I think it's going back more to normal. But I hate the overreaction of, like the word downturn or drop. So I think it's more of a return to the normal trajectory of fishing. And I think if there's anything I've learned over the last 5-10 years in this industry is there's a finite number of hardcore anglers and people that follow the tournament scene. And this is a much bigger world. And I've seen a little bit of it, like I said, following the Crappie Chronicles and doing day 4 with Frank Scalish, where we have a ton of people that watch that don't fish tournaments, have no desire to fish tournaments. They don't have anything against tournaments. They just want to learn how to catch more fish. So it's like super easy to just focus on the minute stuff that's going on in the industry and seeing it as negative. But in my opinion, I don't think there's ever been a better opportunity to get in the industry and have a platform to build your brand. Adam is a perfect example of this. The Crappie Chronicles didn't exist 4 years ago. I went up to Minnesota because I had Sam Sobey on the show and I talked about wanting to go ice fishing, and Adam reached out and is like, hey, I ice fish. If it doesn't work out, like, hey, come up, blah, blah, blah. I'd known a couple people who knew him. I rolled up there. He was starting a new series, and look at what that is now. It's an absolute monster in the ice fishing industry. And that's something that he started by going out on his own with no one else around him and creating a viable business for himself and for Pink and Griff and Waldo and the people around him. Like, I've seen the multi-million-dollar companies that are banking on that brand that he created over the last 3 or 4 years. So if you have a unique idea, the drive and the passion to do it, I think now is a great time to get into it, because before, I mean, you were either an outdoor rider, you were a tournament angler, or you worked for one of the organizations. Now there are so many different avenues in which you can make a living in this industry, as long as you're open-minded and you're willing to work your ass off and you're willing to spend some years in the trenches without giving up on it. So I think it's a great time to get into the industry, and like all the little negative stuff that's happening in the tournaments and what's going on like that, I think that's like noise. That's on the inside. Like all that goes on in motocross and in golf and in tennis and in every single sport. Like we turn it on and watch it and we just don't care about it. We just hear about it and it seems like it's magnified because we live it every single day. So there's my take on it.
Yeah. No, I would agree. Like with what Matt said, I think in terms of a time to get into the industry, like he said, there's never been a better time. And that's like I kind of mentioned earlier. I mean, I'm looking at like focusing more on tournaments and stuff, but like people ask me a lot why I don't film tournaments. And for me, it's like, I mean, dude, this is a prime thought process for me, right? I have nothing wrong with people who film tournament videos. I think some of them are great, but like there's so many of them now that like, if I'm going to focus my energy on something filming, I'm going to do something else that's creative and cool. And I have a bunch of other ideas and stuff you can go do. There's so many avenues of content and different things to put out there. And I mean, like I mean, Bailey, remember during COVID when we had a few podcasts and we talked about this, like it felt like everybody was starting a podcast and starting a YouTube channel. Dude, there's like not many that made it out. There's like nobody left. If you really think about it, or like they got bigger, they did it for a bit and then it dissolved, and maybe they come back for a little bit and then they don't give it full effort. Like if people want to go in and do it and give it full effort, like I know Sobe and I were talking about this, for example, the other day. Like, dude, there's like 5 big YouTube fishermen in Minnesota and Wisconsin. That's it. Like there's really not that many. So it's like there's tons of opportunities there for everyone to get after it. And like we said, right now it feels like maybe the fishing industry is a little negative. It's that tournament side. And that's where I just look at, a lot of guys I've looked up, guys and women I've looked up to for a long time in this industry, and say, hey, how about, let's get back to being leaders. Because right now it feels like we have a lot of people not being very good leaders.
Listen,
in this.
I'll say this too. I've basically went to every single Elite Series tournament. I did go to every single Elite Series tournament, like 80% of FLW tournaments from 2008 to 2017. Like right at the boom of social media, right? But like the stuff that happened and stuff, and then you talk to the guys in the generation before that, that is top level competition. Like that stuff has been going on since Ray Scott had the first freaking tournament with Bass. Like there has been conflict and rules violations and it's part of the process. That's why you have all of these checks and balances in it. It's just now in 2024 and basically for the last 3 or 4 years that everyone has an outlet to make that public. Or if someone wants to make it public, they know someone who has an outlet who feels like it's their responsibility to make that public. Like that stuff went on in the 70s and 80s and 90s. Dads fishing for their kids who win major tournaments and people hole sitting and buying information down to like all this stuff has gone on since the dawn of tournaments. It's just now there's an avenue for it to be talked about. And if you think about how much of the stuff when it first comes out is big, and oh my gosh, can you believe that happened? Dude, we forget about that crap the next week because something else happens, and it's just this vicious cycle of thing after thing after thing right now. And I think that's kind of where you guys are talking about, to the point where it's like if you're chasing the clicks and the views, you lose the heart of the content.
Yes.
And
yeah, it's just exhausting.
And it gets exhausting because you're always looking for the next thing. So I think it's very easy to find negative stuff because there is a bunch more negative stuff. There's just a bunch more negative stuff that was kept in the locker room because there wasn't an outlet for it in the past. Like I remember, some of the big things, it's either a DQ or a major penalty, and that's the only way you would hear about it. We're hearing about every little thing that goes on right now, and that stuff has gone on since the beginning of time in every single top level competitive individual sport in the history of Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's nail on the head. That's why people think it's the biggest thing now, just because social media. That's why it just seems. Yeah, no, that's a great point. I didn't mean to go down that much of a rabbit hole, but I appreciate your guys' viewpoints on it greatly, and so I think that was good. But I want to get into a more lighthearted conversation now, and that was your guys' dub for the St. Jude event. First I want to get to your guys' tournament itself, but Bart, talk a little bit about that event, and then I think I saw was it now the lifetime for that event? Did they hit 8 million raised for that?
7.5.
Yeah, I think it's 7.5. I don't think we hit 8 yet.
That'll be next 8. Year.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the event, Pangrac can chime into this too now that he's
Listen, I'll tell you everything I know about the event. Bart found him, I caught him. End of story. So if you have any questions in the tournament about like the actual catching of the fish, ask me the question. Anything else, direct that question to Bart.
Yes. For the most part, yeah. No, but the actual for the actual St. Jude event, like it's a super cool tournament, man. Like you should come out and do it sometime. It's such a great cause, and Now that everybody can see kind of what's going on with Miles Berghoff and his daughter Riley, like I think it hits home a lot more. People realize like where the dollars are actually going to, because they can see someone in their own community like being positively affected by the St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. And Matt and I got to go there in November. It's a crazy place. It's very weird to be in a hospital that, you know, there's like an opportunity for so much negativity and sadness and just bad things to happen, but every step you take around, there's positivity, excitement, and just like joy. It's very interesting to be there. So it makes you want to work harder to fundraise for it. So that's where this event is so cool. Like people say it. I mean, I totally like agree with it. There's a fishing tournament going on, but there's also an event. And like, I would say the last, you know, every year I've fished it till this time, for me, it's always been about, you know, the fundraising and the event and everything. And you hear a lot of people say it on stage of like, oh, it's all about the fundraising and everything. I will say once you kind of all of a sudden are in the heat of like, I might win it, it feels like there's a tournament and an event going on, like two separate things.
There's definitely
like all of a sudden
where
there's
you're like, the fundraising is nice, but you know what's nice? Fundraising and winning.
Yes. there is a moment where that hits and you're like, okay, like, yeah, we should probably, yeah. So, yes, it is great. And like, that's, the nice thing is for all the years that, you know, haven't won, or finished, you know, however, it's like, well, whatever, you know, get a small check, and we did it for a great cause. And it's always a great way to kick off the year. This year was a little bit more different. And I think, yeah, it turned out awesome, but the event itself is incredible. I think Matt would attest to, he's been to probably almost every tournament across the country. And you said it's the best one you've ever been to in terms of how it's ran.
Yeah, bar none. Just the ease of like rolling up and every little detail is taken care of. Professional feel to it. The media that goes along with it. The announcers, the big script, like everything it is legitimately on par. It is actually not on par. It is better than an Elite Series launch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like no doubt, like they have
there was
way
a flyover.
On there's a
two.
flyover.
We had
there's
a flyover
big
this
screen TV.
year.
There's multiple free food. The way everything works, it is. I'm trying to think. I've been to everything. It is the best and smoothest takeoff. Like the whole experience from the time you arrive to that ramp to the time you take off. I have not found a better one in the country. And that's aside from the fundraising or anything. That's just strictly judging like tournaments.
Yeah, I would tell you the only inconvenience in the morning is on day 2. Normally, Corey Houck will walk up to me at about 6 o'clock and go, "Hey, Matt left your truck running again."
I've done that 2 years in a row now, but your truck sounds like a freaking golf cart, Adam. Like you can't hear it. Like you don't even know
Ram 1500. Like
okay,
it's not.
In all fairness, it's a Ram 1500, but it has one of those freaking dials and a push button.
He literally
I got the same thing. So
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but dude, like the last 2 years, I've had my buddy Corey's won 4 St. Jude's.
3.
But he walked up to me again this year and he goes, "Hey, just for the record, your truck's running."
So next year, I have to leave your truck running now.
We didn't win it the year before when you did it. That's not a superstition thing. It's more of just annoying because I have to walk all the way back over there because you parked like separate.
Sounds like the only variable that was different for you guys is Matt was the only one fishing this year.
Matt Matt fished this year. He fished a lot harder than the year before.
I was not feeling it last year. Plus, it was OU
shit.
Texas week.
That was obvious. Feet kicked up, sitting passenger seat, watching the OU game.
Well, it was. If you had found a group, I would have started fishing.
Yeah, in the tournament.
I was just
trying to bounce around,
saving it for this year.
Fish. Yeah, he did. He saved it for this year. He worked hard this year.
That's awesome.
But in
like
terms
Bart
of
was
the way
so dialed in.
Yeah, in terms of the way the tournaments ran, it's unbelievable. And like the timing of everything's so good. Like when you go to like you finish practice and everything, and like the event hasn't really started yet, you would say. But then you go to like the registration dinner, which Matt wasn't there yet this year because he was flying there from the Bassmaster Open. But like you go there, you like get to the registration dinner, have a beer, you start talking to people, and like that's kind of the start of the event. From that moment on, you are like in that event for the next like 56, 72 hours. Yeah, 48 hours, whatever it is. You are like in the event because then you go home, you go to bed, you drive to takeoff in the morning, you weigh in. You have 45 minutes to re-rigger your odds. Now you're going to the banquet. The banquet lasts until 8:30 or 9. Okay, you go back, pull your boat in, show up to the ramp to launch again, and you're going like it's a whirlwind of a weekend. But it's so moving and just well run. It is such a well-oiled machine. It's unreal.
So it's better than, Matt, to your point, like better than an Elite Series launch. Like, is it in regard to the spectacle of it, or just the fact of how smooth,
just
like
the entire, like everything? Like, I mean, the Elite Series runs like a well-oiled machine, but like I'm just talking about like they have the big screen and Fat Cats there, and they had the flyover. They have biscuits and gravy for you and pastries and literally like they're being made right there for you. And you roll up and there's someone that tells you like what line to get in. And then someone else gives you your chip, and then someone else checks you in, and then you get backed in, and then someone else drives you in a golf cart. You never have to wait for it. Like, it's all like, there's not a single minute of like chaos at all. Like, it's all just so perfect and smooth, and everybody has a place to park, and the way they do it is a little funky with like, the top 10 go out based on how much they've earned every single year, but then they like wait 20 minutes for the next flight and then 20 minutes for the next flight, and they have it like up on the big screen as to what the flights and everything are, and then just the whole thing, it's just incredibly easy. Like, if you've never done it before, like the first time I did it, it was just like, holy cow. Like, they got this thing dialed. Like, every tournament organization needs to do it this way, but then you realize you can't, because it takes 50 volunteers and 26 years of doing it to make it run as smooth as it does.
Yeah. It's very incredible.
That's freaking cool. Is there a cap to how many boats, or is it just
100?
100. And that the field is never filled.
It'll be filled next year. I promise you. There'll be a wait list next year.
I hope so. But yeah, it's never actually filled. Normally it's 70 to 85 boats is typically what I see. People get scared of the fundraising minimum. That's what it is. People get scared of the fundraising minimum and the Mississippi River. And
so the fundraising deal is, the tournament entry fee is what, $500, Adam?
I think it's 400 now.
But then you have to raise $5,000 for St. Jude in order to be eligible for the top first place prize, which, as Adam and I know, is $25,000. So, but then it goes like, if you like, we raised the 8th most, we raised $30,000. What, Corey raised like 78,000 this year?
Yeah, Corey was first with 78.
Insane. Yeah. So like, they were first both days. So the rest of the field inverts, but if you're in top 10 in fundraising,
no, the rest of the field does not invert.
Oh, it stays the same.
Wrong. No, so the rest of the field from 11 on is based off weights on day one.
Oh, okay, it's based off weights, but the
top 10 just stays the same both days.
So we were 8 both
top
days
10 fundraising,
which is like a fantastic idea, because everybody, it's like so competitive, and then everybody knows how important the draw is the first week of May on the river. So like, you're making money for a St. Jude, but it's also like to beat the other teams, because there's a running tally of what it is, and it's going to help you in the tournament. So it's like a win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's freaking cool. What I'm thinking is, because you said it hasn't capped yet, it'd be cool. So if it capped next year, would that be the first year it's capped?
It'd be the first. I've never seen it go to 100 boats. I don't believe it ever has. I could be wrong. I'd have to ask Gretchen or Matt Hall or someone who's been there forever, but I don't think it's ever filled.
It'd be cool.
I would
to
imagine it's going to fill next year, though. I feel like there's a lot of publicity behind it. It's driving really
Matt
good
Steffen
now.
just dropped an entire video on it.
Yeah,
Miles is dropping videos on it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on now.
I think it'd be pretty cool to try to get more, get more creators involved on that. Like maybe because that's one thing Andy and I were talking about trying to do this year. Was one that the St. Jude's, but also the Blackfish Classic. What things we want to try to get the podcast involved in. It'd be kind of cool to do a little side pot next year and have, obviously you got BTL pass the bar. We get Serious Angler involved. We get Andrew Hayes from Tackle Talk, have a little podcast side pot for fundraising, make some little side competition off of it. But then you can get creators, involved, some guys that are like YouTube wise that one can bring their following into it, that they get the views from, making content around the event, but also the event benefits from it. It'd be kind of cool to make some side competition.
Did you say Wheelers fished it? Fighters fished it?
Yeah, Wheelers fished it a couple of years. Fighters fished it. Fighters almost won it. Wheelers almost won it. I don't know if Downey's fished it before.
They just didn't have what it takes, Bailey, to actually,
It's a hard tournament to win. It is a very hard tournament to win.
So what you're saying is technically you guys are better than Wheeler and Fighter.
I did not say that.
I think that's what
Matt
Adam
might have
said
that.
when we caught that 6 fish. He literally looked at this guy and he yelled, "I am better than Jacob Wheeler."
No. I looked up at the sky and I said, "Damn it, my Bubba scale died."
Oh, is that before or after you yelled Seth who?
That stash ain't got shit on me.
No, the whole second day we called with a inaccurate scale.
Well, till the end of the day.
We were like, wait a second, this doesn't look like we were like, this fish is clearly bigger than this other one.
Yeah. I'm going back to the Rapala touchscreen.
I'm going back to the balance beam.
Yeah, that did work.
Well, I'm so old that technology has passed me by. I balance beam them.
Yeah, well, that balance beam was very good. It turned out we won by 1 3/4 pounds, but yeah. Yeah.
You don't have the old metal scale, Matt? The one that just gives you 6, 7, 8 on the lines.
Yeah. No, I just do the balance beam.
I think it would be great, Bailey, to get if you want to fish it next year, then it would conflict, but to some level of like a live stream or a podcast going on site. I know Matt interviewed Bonham the 1 year, but like just getting more media involved of like showing what is so special about this, because I think that's one thing Matt would add to it is there's a lot more big fishing companies, I think, that are going to want to get involved over the years and all that. But I think the most important thing about this tournament and keeping it the way it is the small town feel of it. And like, it is a bunch of just like local dudes and like it's their big tournament of the year. Like you see 17-foot Lunds with a 75 horse on it fishing this tournament. You see guys in flat bottom tillers and you go, dang it, they're going to get to a backwater I can't get to.
The hardest part about this tournament to me is growing it and raising more money for St. Jude, which is what the ultimate goal is, along with raising awareness of St. Jude, without losing what makes this tournament special, without corporatizing it, without taking it out of Wabasha, without having it, because as a hardcore tournament angler, like, it is a special event with a lot of people. And what has made it special is the dedication of the 50 teams that have fished it for 15 or 20 years. And as you start bringing outside influences in, it's easy to change that. So you have to keep that feel for it, because that banquet, that experience is what makes the teams want to work all year to raise the money for it, to raise awareness for it. So the challenge is to simultaneously grow it, expand it, and make it bigger while still maintaining the core of what makes it special, which is the people, the setting, and the atmosphere.
Yeah, and the banquet is something that I think to some level of getting it, whether it's like live streamed or broadcast
that
or
needs to
whatever
be
it could be.
streamed 100%.
That could be a thing because there is, I mean, like Matt's been there 3 times now, but I think he would even say like you don't see a grown man walk out of that banquet without like tears they're wiping off their like face. Like everybody cries.
Like I can legitimately say I've teared up twice in the past 10 years. It's at 2 of the 3 banquets I've been to for the St. Jude. Like I am like just an emotional brick. Like, and I mean, I do not cry. And that, like, I teared up at this past one.
Damn.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
And
heavy.
I think just people knowing how important it is. I'm trying to I'll find it and I'll get it out there. But Miles gave just an incredible speech on stage day 1.
Oh, yeah, that was legendary.
It was so good. And I need to find it and get it out so everybody sees it. But it's just, you can feel like the weight of how important that event is to so many people when you're there. And that's what makes it so special.
And I legit have not come across a team in the past 3 years at the banquet that is like pissed off at how they fished. Like you can't tell at that banquet or anything whether you had 2 pounds or 22 pounds. Like everyone understands what they're there for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is awesome in regard to people can put aside the competition aspect and just understand what priority number 1 is. I think that honestly speaks louder than anything else that I've heard from the atmosphere of the event. Like, yeah, it might be a cool spectacle, but I think the fact that anglers, in being as competitive as they are, if they can still keep the event in St. Jude's priority number 1 over that speaks very loud to me.
But I'll also say this, the competition is incredibly intense and the talent level in that field is through the roof with the best river sticks from Wisconsin and Minnesota and all around that. So like, it's not like, oh, let's just go see, like guys want to freaking catch them in that event is from what I've seen. Like guys like base their whole year around trying to catch them in that event.
Yeah. And like Panger's seen, like you can't screw up. Like it's a 2-day event that with 6 fish and you literally can't screw up because the weights are so tight.
I never understood the 6 fish thing. This was the first year that I finally get the 6 fish thing because you're a northern guy, Bailey, you get it. But like there's a big difference between 5 3.5 pounders and 6 3.5 pounders. Big difference.
Yeah.
And it's up north just because there's so many damn fish that are 3 pounds.
Yeah.
But there's not that many that are 3.5 to 4.5.
It takes away like what 6 fish does is say you have 4 3s and then you catch a 5 3/4. It takes away that luck factor of one giant fish. Like you got to catch a bag because like you can't have a 2-pounder at the bottom of your bag. Like those guys, those top teens, they don't have a little one.
Yeah. I mean, what do we average? 3.56 a fish?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think we weighed in. I mean, my scale was all screwed up. But Panger, you would say what? Maybe 3 over 4? 4 over 4? We had a largemouth that was probably over 4. And
I know. I think we had 3 over 4 the first day and 2 over 4 the second day. We weighed in 5 fish over 4 pounds. 5 of our 12.
Yep. I would agree with that.
Because we had a better average on Sunday. Saturday, we had a couple 3-pounders that we weren't able to get up to that like 3.5.
Yeah, because that was the strategy on day 1.
Because we had the 2 big largies and the big smallie on the first day. And the second day, we had 2 big smallies.
Yep, true.
Was this something that guys are like practicing for days for leading up, or do they have like a cutoff?
You can practice as long as you want. There's guys that'll practice like not like a week or 2 straight. Because the one thing that's nice about this tournament is, dude, this is at a time of year. The Mississippi River is the most volatile and changing fishery, in my opinion, in the country. It changes so rapidly each day, so quickly. that even if you're there practicing for a week, like I told Panger, I practiced for 4 days and was fully prepared to throw everything out the window. And I had a game plan, but I had a game plan of stuff like some of the spots I didn't even fish. I was just like, yeah, we're going there. And he was like, how do you know? Like, he started looking at me on, it was either towards the end of day 1 or day 2. He looked at me and he said, did you catch any here in practice? And I'd look at him and I'm like, no. I'm like, we're just going to roll through here quick or whatever it is. But like, I think he got that there was kind of a method to the madness because it's just, there's so much changing. You're at a spring transition where, dude, these fish will pull up in like a couple hours. Like,
wow.
Panger and I were watching fish pull up next to us. Like, dude, we were legitimately, like, Matt would attest to this. Day 2, we are raptored down trying to catch this fish, and we keep chucking at it, and like we can literally like see the bank next to us, and we've been throwing at this fish for 15 minutes, and he looks over and he goes, "That wasn't there." Flips at it, 3 1/4. Literally pulled up, made a bed next to us while we were fishing for a different.
Yeah, it was wild.
That's insane. So this is all timing then.
100% timing. It's a huge timing tournament, which makes it super fun because you're just like, dude, all day you're just like, maybe this
Or
next
super
spot
frustrating.
or very frustrating because if you get in a bad rotation, you are screwed. But like this year, you're in a good rotation and you're just like checking spots. You're seeing what's, happening, where they're pulling up. And yeah, I mean, at the end of day 1, we pulled into an area and it was going down. Like, it was like, yeah, this is happening right now.
It was a perfect team tournament. Like, I fished a bunch of team tournaments with a bunch of different partners over the years. And every once in a while, you just have one of those that clicks. And in my experience, it's one guy who's making the decisions, who's dialed in. You're both fishing good. And there's just a couple key, like, Bart had a game plan. He was rolling. I said, dude, if it crosses your mind, go with it. I'm not going to question it. And then he had a couple key decisions that he asked what my opinion was on it. And I think the only one I gave you was I didn't want to lock on day 2.
Yeah. And that I was 50-50 on it because we had got up to like 19 1/4. And I had a bunch of stuff to run on both pools. And the only reason one of the biggest reasons I was debating locking down was the only fish we lost on day 1. I'm pretty sure was on a bed, and it was we thought it was close to 4. And Matt,
I never saw it. I like leaned into it and it just broke,
yeah.
but it rolled.
So like we were guessing, but once again, we knew we were in contention, and like 4-pounders are so valuable on the Mississippi River that I told him, I'm like, dude, I'll run an hour for a 4.
God, he badgered me. How big do you think it was? Did you see it? Are you sure? I'm like, dude, no, I'm not willing to run 25 minutes and lock for a fish.
And then he said that, and I was like, okay, seconds. We won't do it. I said, we won't do it. And then we didn't do it. We went and then him saying he didn't want to do it, I said, fine, we're going to go check here. I still ran to a spot towards the lock because in the back of my head, I was like, I might still want to lock.
Like, it was one of those
deals. And we got to the spot, but then we ran into a guy I know, Brent Hames, who's fished 2 classics, or a classic and 2 Bassmaster Nation championships. I can't remember, but either way, he's very good. He's won a ton of stuff on the river. He won the Jude last year, actually. And I ran into him at noon, and him and Matt looked at me and they said, how are you doing? And we were like, good. Like, we got 6. We're working on a decent bag. And they were like, we have 1 fish. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, we have 1. We can't get bit. And then another guy who's insanely good came ripping around the corner to fish where we were, and then he left. And they were like, well, if he's back here, then he's doing bad too. And I looked at Panger and I said, pick up our stuff. We're going to run. We got to go the other way. And he like looked at me. He's like, why? I'm like, because something happened down here and I don't know what it is. And we don't have time to mess with it. And then we picked up and we ran like 30 miles the other direction.
Like, this is how it worked. Like, he would make a good decision. And since I didn't practice because I was at the open, I didn't know what the hell he was full. So we'd roll into an area and he'd go, there's a fish around here. Like, this happened multiple times. And I would just bomb a cast out and be like, oh, I got it.
Hey, catch like, I didn't get a catch like anything.
Every single time where we like rolled up or we're fishing, he would be like, we got one here. And before he could even get set up, I would catch it. And then he'd be like, okay, well, maybe that wasn't it. And then he'd be like, nope, that was it. Like, it was nuts. Like,
and then we'd look around maybe a bit more and catch one or like we caught a couple random upgrades.
There were a couple deal. Like, there was one deal, the coolest deal, like Bart called me during practice and he's like, I got this deal that I think we can catch a couple good ones, but it's not my forte, but I think it's something you do at Grand. And he told me what it was. And I said,
you can talk about this with details. That's fine.
I can't tell. All right.
Yeah.
He had two fish behind a walkway in a marina, but it was a walkway you couldn't get to. So it was a 6-foot marine. It was a 6-foot walkway. And you could see the fish behind the walkway, or Bart could see the fish in practice. We happened to fish for him during a lightning and torrential downpour, so I never got to see him. And he was like, do you like know how to get those fish out? And I was like, yeah, we do that on freaking Grand all the time in the marinas. So I specifically brought a reel for 2 fish. And I rigged it up for 2 fish. I said, you got the biggest, heaviest, nastiest flipping stick you got, and you just do like manly stuff with them back there. So we roll up. It's like the perfect walkway, but it's like a little bit angled in to where it's like you can't get an angle on the flip. Like, you literally have to bang them off the dock, on top of the dock, drag them across and into the boat.
I'm telling you,
it's a nightmare
situation.
And so
it is not.
He's good. Like, I think there's one here. Or he's like, does he see it? He said, there's one here and there's one here. So I'm flipping. I'm like, I don't see it. And it goes donk and starts swimming. So I just freaking KO it. And the first one was just like clockwork. Fish comes up, bounce it off the dock into the bottom of the boat, 3.5 pounder. So then the back one was 20 feet away from the first one. So I just switched spots. So Bart just is watching me, like not even fishing. And I'm
what
like,
am I going to do? There's nothing for
and
me
I'm
to
like,
do in here.
I'm
We're
like
in a
looking
dock
and I like
I
can see the second fish. And like 5 minutes in, it bites and I jack it and I get it hung up in the bottom of the dock. So it's like up out of the water, like dangling. It's like a 4.5 pounder and like probably 4.25. Yeah. And it comes off and I'm like, crap. And then there's a boat like right down the way. So it saw that whole thing. So now Bart's like, well, we can't leave it because they'll come over here. And it's like one of our biggest fish of the entire week. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, I screwed that up. And I get it to bite like 20 minutes later. And I just crack it as hard as I can. And it comes up to jump, but it's like in an awkward position. So I just like grab the rod and do this. And it comes up and then it comes off in midair. And it just lands on the walkway and just starts doing like the... And it's just flopping on the walkway and without like any hesitation. So like without any hesitation, I like drop to my knees and just fall. Like my knees are in the boat and I just like fall on the fish and then like rake into the boat. and we get it. Like, dude,
it's like, so I got it.
When I grabbed this fish on the dock, I put my hand in its mouth and I've never had a fish like rake my thumb. Like, I don't know if you can see this, but look how jacked up my thumb is from that fish.
Holy moly. Yeah. That bruise?
Yeah. That's from that largemouth on the dock. Like when I grabbed it, he just clamped as hard as she could on it. And then like I like when I went to grab it like this, I like raked my thumb out of her mouth and like just completely torched my thumb, but we got it. So like, I mean, that was like 20 minutes that he had found 2 fish in practice. And then like, he just sat there and watched, but it was the perfect team event. Like I said,
hey, don't discount the fact of I was bait boy. So after he screwed it up, we had to alternate through quite a few baits.
Oh, so yeah. So I would be like, do you have a lizard? No,
Be like,
I'd be like, do
"Go,
you
dig it
have a
through."
white speed craw? Yes. Do
Just
you
start throwing
have a
stuff to 'em.
bluegill Kitech? Yeah. I think I ended up,
I think it was
lost,
the bluegill Kitech.
yeah. So I lost it on a rage craw. And then I ended up getting it to bite the second time on a 3.8 bluegill Kitech on a Texas rig.
Yeah. And then,
Throw this,
and then we go around the corner.
I would say, yeah. Then,
and Bart's like,
then
there
we
was
go
one
around the
swimming
corner.
around here somewhere that looked like a big one. And I literally go, you mean this one? And it was like our second biggest fish of the week.
Once again, I
Oh
haven't
my
even
God.
casted yet. I just told him it was somewhere over here swimming.
Like,
He
I've never
sets
seen
up.
anyone with such a good game plan. Like, dude, like he had it dialed in. And then like his buddy
But
was
dude,
like,
Panger,
dude, we rolled in and all those fish were gone. And Bart was like, yeah, we already caught him. Like Bart's timing was like so dialed in.
Panger, the one thing in the docks that we'll go back to that, but the one thing on the docks that we're leaving out on this was by far the most badass part of it, of Panger putting on a clinic, was we go do this. Like, he hooks this fish, loses it, swings on it like 6 times as it's pulling pinchers off of baits and stuff. This other boat was in that area, pulled down, bait on a bed, waiting for a fish to eat it. We caught the one. Set the hook, lost the one, set the hook 4 times on it, then eventually got it, flip it over, go around to the other one, get it. I look at them, I'm like, well, we're done. They're just still sitting on the other one, and they haven't even moved yet. And we're like, okay, let's leave.
And that was all
And they
we
watched
did.
the whole thing happen. And
That's
then I'm like,
incredible.
all right, we'll get out of there.
And then your buddy comes in to try to catch those fish 30 minutes after we left.
I think it was a little later than that, but yeah, I talked to him at weigh-in. He looked at me and he's like, I went in here. I had a couple big ones, and I went in there and someone must have grabbed him. I looked at him and was like, yeah, they're in my picture. I weighed them in. And he looked at me. He's like, what? How'd you find those? I was like, I found them on like Friday. I was like, I don't know. They were just chilling there. I figured I should grab them.
That's
They were big. Like, yeah. So
But
it
it took you how many years to actually kind of loosely understand how these things move? Because that's the biggest thing. Like, I don't understand. I would never have guessed with the water temps and what was going on that they, like, I've never seen fish just go, okay, let's go. And they literally go. It's the wildest thing. Like, if you don't understand that, there's no way you have a chance in this thing.
Yeah, all the conditions were lining up, in my opinion. And I just banked on it, man. And what I did differently this year than previous years was, and I think it was a huge part of our success, was instead of me running around just trying to find more new smallmouth areas and more new things like that, I really just buckled down and was like, I'm going to find some largemouth. I'm not picky about how I find them, like whether they're on beds, whether they're on a grass line, whether they're, whatever. I just want to find some largemouth that I don't think are going to leave because the water's coming up 2 feet over the next 4 days. And I focused a lot on that. And I really didn't focus that hard in practice until the last day on looking for smallmouth. I would go through an area and spend maybe 20, 30 minutes there and just see how it was laying out, and more of just like trust my instincts of like, this is what it looks like. This is what the water temps are. And instead of fishing it thoroughly and then getting my confidence jacked up, I just kind of went through and was like, okay, yeah, it's getting ready, and then like Pangrac, I mean, the area Miles spent basically his whole tournament in. I went there I was there on Thursday for a substantial amount of time, and there was one smallmouth on a bed. That was it. I looked the whole area. Miles got there at 11 a.m. on Friday. He found over 100 on beds in less than 24-hour change.
And that was probably our biggest smallmouth that we weighed in that day. And the only reason we caught it was because you were taking a leak.
Yeah, I was taking a leak. We were about to leave. Panger chuck a worm into a boat lift dredge. There was one pre-spawned in it.
While Bart was taking a leak, he goes, "Get up there and make a couple casts. I gotta take a leak." I said, "Okay." I mean, like,
He's
I
like,
was
check
done
at this,
and just
yeah,
fired
like,
it.
check
And I
at
was like,
this old boat at this.
I was like, I got a big
podcast.
one. And he's like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
When things just flow, man, you know, you get in that rhythm, like it's just subconscious. You kind of just
Hey,
roll with it.
You know what I would like to watch? I would watch this. I would like to see a team tournament kayak derby and a double yak where you got to fish.
Like the unicycle or
You
like
gotta
the tandem
fish.
bicycle.
You got to put
But in
two
the
people
kayak.
in the same yak.
You know what would make that better? You make it like the old days where it's the two guys in the same boat fishing against each other, though.
I think it would be good with the team, but you guys have to face opposite directions. So, like, you're in the yak one way and he's in the yak the other way, so you really can't talk that much.
That would be entertaining. That would probably make for some chaos.
Dude, you could totally start the team kayak tournament series.
That would be quite interesting.
You could get some places twice as fast. You guys could just be both pedaling.
So you're saying going from 5 miles per hour to a whopping 7? You're saying,
Yeah.
Or we're putting them on plane now.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, is there anything else on the St. Jude's you think that people need to know about? Any highlights coming out of that, and maybe anything leading into next year, if there even is any information available yet?
Yeah, next year's event will be May 2nd through 4th. It's the first weekend of May every year, barring river flooding. So sometimes it gets postponed a week, or normally it's never a week. Normally it's like 2 weeks or a month if it's flooded bad. But I think lately they've just been pushing it to the fall if it floods. So, yeah, I think, like I said, it's an event everybody should fish. There were, Matt, how many teams were there this year? Because I heard about it on BTL, like 2 or 3?
Yeah, 2 or 3.
Yeah. So anybody can come from wherever. It's a great place. The community's phenomenal. And it's super fun. I mean, you're going to catch fish. Like, it's a Mississippi River, going to catch fish. I know day 2 was really tough on a lot of people, which I was honestly very surprised about. But it's a great fishery and you'll have a great time. And I just don't think there's a better way to kick off the tournament. I know like Pangra's been fishing opens and stuff for months now, but up north, it's like kind of the kickoff of the tournament season. I just don't think there's a better way to kick it off.
Yeah, well, especially when you're getting out of the old Midwest winter. I think people need that little bit of revival, if you will. But no, that's pretty dang cool, man. Would definitely love to see more, like we were talking about earlier, more outlets, media talk about it in that regard. Definitely is on a bucket list for Andy and I to get over there and fish too. Can make some fun out of it. A little side pot next year. But I think one thing that's cool that you hit on briefly, but I wanted to at least go back on and give some props to, is not only one, the money you guys raised for it, but you said 2 to 3 teams got into it because of what you guys done in BTL. So that means at the very least you helped raise another 15 grand, because it's a $5,000 minimum, right? For
well, it's a 500 minimum to fish. It's $5,000 minimum to getting the like double payout. Basically, there's different incentive payout scales on their website that you can see based on how much you fundraise. I think there's 2 different multipliers. So at the bare minimum, you have to fundraise $500, but then you get a certain payout multiplier. I believe it's for like 1,500. And then if you go over $5,000, it affects like the top 5 payout basically. And you get the 25,000 for first. And yes, there are people who have won it who did not fundraise the $5,000 for that. And it's always very sad seeing them stand up there with like an only $7,500 check instead. So it's not hard to fundraise $5,000. It seems like a lot, but register, make some plans, and people are very willing to give money to St. Jude. They're very willing to do it.
There's a ton of information on it. You can just Google Dick Hiley St. Jude Bass Classic. Website pops right up. They do a really good job of updating and giving a lot of information and stuff on that tournament.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, kudos to you guys, one on the dub, but also all the fundraising money you guys went forth for St. Jude's. That's nothing to balk at. That's something to be pretty proud of, boys.
What are we shooting for next year, Adam?
Well, you said 100.
That was in the moment.
If we got 50, I'd be really pumped.
Yeah, let's shoot for 50K next year.
Yeah.
That's pretty badass, boys.
Yeah, we'll see if we can do it.
Well, hell yeah.
Would that
50,
80? No, let's do it to where we raise 100 in the first four. So that'd be like we did 30, 40.
Yeah, we need like
55,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty baller. I'd take you do it.
You can do it. Yeah. I mean, dude, there's so many ways to fundraise the money. It is.
Like, can you literally
get a
start
sponsor?
Right now?
Yeah. If you get a sponsor to sponsor the event for next year, they go to your fundraising total. The whole deal. There's
like
so
the
many
majority
ways
of our funds this year, like Adam donated a portion of all of his subscriptions for his Feet Finder account.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking outside the box, boy.
Yeah.
You're talking about creativity in the industry earlier. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Got to pay the bills.
You just got your brand logos on your toenails. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Got my sponsors.
Yeah.
This exfoliation session brought to you by.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, boys, I got a little fun little game here to wrap this thing up. Just a little this and that. I don't know if you guys have ever played it before, but basically, I'm gonna give you we're gonna do rapid fire. So I'll give you two different things. You pick one of them. We'll go with Bart and then Matt. It's kind of like a rapid fire, but if you want to expand, by all means, it's your show. But some little fun banter to wrap things up, and then we'll call the show a night. But a little bit of this or that. So we'll start off simple here, fishing wise. We'll just do casting or spinning.
Spinning.
Matt. Coffee or energy drinks?
I have to have coffee.
Yes, both. I'll do coffee and energy drinks if you can't tell.
So you want this and that? Okay.
This and that.
This and that. Podcast or music? Coffee. Okay.
Podcast.
100% music.
You don't even really listen to any other podcasts.
I don't listen to any podcasts. I'll listen to occasionally, like if it's just like as much as I hate it, like if it's a salacious one, I'll listen to a portion of it. Like, but I'll listen to just like the actual portion. Like I just don't listen to podcasts.
I'm surprised that you're not like a Spittin' Chicklets guy.
I'll listen to a little bit of it. Listen to it at times. Like if there's a specific, if they got like, a blast from the past, like I listened to all the Wayne Gretzky, like Spittin' Chicklets stuff. I like the locker room stories and stuff like that. Like I really like the, didn't Ty Domi do a Spittin' Chicklets deal like last year? Like I'll listen to some of the Spittin' Chicklets stuff. Like that, if there's one I listen to, it's probably Spittin' Chicklets.
Have you, total sidebar, but bringing up Gretzky, have you listened to Theo Vaughn's episode with Gretzky?
No, I don't listen to podcasts.
Dude, okay. As a hockey guy, you got to listen to it. It's actually freaking hilarious. Having Theo
How
Vaughn,
long does he have them?
I think it's like an hour and a half. It's a long time.
Cow. Yeah, I'll get on that one.
But it's Gretzky and it's Theo Vaughn, so it makes no sense, and it's absolutely hilarious.
I like it. I'll get on that one.
All right, so we'll put this one in to fishing perspective when you guys are on the road. Cooking or takeout?
Takeout.
Cooking.
NFL football or college football?
College.
Yeah, you're Minnesota, right?
SEC is about to see what OU's all about this year.
You guys are gonna get throttled.
Oh, you want to put some money on that? I think we got 9-3 only because we have one of the toughest schedules in the SEC. They give Texas the cupcake schedule, and they're going to be like, oh, I mean, we got Bama, Tennessee, LSU. I mean, but we're going to bring it. They're going to see what the Palace on the Prairie, the house that Bud built, historic Owen Field, is all about.
You guys think the reign of terror for Bama's over now that Saban's gone?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they'll always be pretty dang good.
Yeah, they will be.
Any region that puts an emphasis on it will make sure that they're good.
Fair enough. All right. Hot dog or hamburger?
Hamburger.
I'm a Glizzy fan.
Almost 40
What?
saying Glizzy. I don't even say Glizzy.
What? Am I not allowed to say that?
No, I just think it's funny. I've always found that trend of people calling it a Glizzy just fairly odd to me.
I'm a connoisseur.
Yeah, fair enough. Crappie or bass?
Bass.
Crappie.
Tequila or beer?
How did we win this tournament together, Bart?
Beer.
Yeah,
Yin and yang, baby. Yin and yang.
that's a good point.
Tell you what, I will tell you, Bailey, if you fish a team tournament with Panger, you just have to be prepared for half of your day is talking him off an emotional ledge.
No, it's not. Is it?
No, every once in a while it is. He'll lose a fish and he immediately convinces himself it was a 5 or something, and then he'll slowly degrade back down to realism. You just have to be like, it's okay. The world isn't ending. We're all right. We will get bit again. Believe
Imagine
it or
when
not.
I'm in an open by myself.
I was thinking of that.
That's funny. Well, Matt, tequila or beer?
That's an
beer.
and
I don't
for-
know if I said, but beer.
Yeah, that's an and for me. Like, man, if I had to pick one, I'd probably margarita over beer.
Yeah, all right. Total side note, but I got this thing sent to me called have you guys ever heard of a flask cap?
I think I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
It's literally like you take a Yeti bottle, like a 16-ounce Yeti, and but it has a little smaller bottle in it that's attached to the cap. And
Wait, like a
basically-
Yeti like this?
Yeah, exactly like that. But it has more like the more water bottle-esque tops to it.
Okay.
And essentially you can put like, say you're a club soda and tequila guy and you're out like grilling, you can fill the thing with, soda water or whatever, and have the little bottle filled with like tequila. And you can click a button on the water bottle that opens the lid to the tequila. So you can have a mixed drink, or you can have just soda or just tequila. It's actually pretty freaking wild.
What's it called?
A flask
That's
cap.
interesting.
I'll send you a picture of it after this, but this place sent it to me. And
I just Googled
rather
it.
excited.
It looks phenomenal.
Yeah, it's pretty dang cool. I have no affiliation with them, but it was my I've been getting into grilling now that we have our own place for the most part.
It holds 6 ounces of your favorite liquor.
Yeah, it's like basically this size of this ibuprofen bottle. Like
Yeah.
you fill that with
You
whatever
need some
liquor you want.
ibuprofen after you get in touch with the flask
Yeah.
cap.
One of those bottles and you're good. You could probably rock a tailgate with that thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, total sidebar. But okay, last one, and then I got one more question. We'll let you guys go here. But ranch or blue cheese?
Ranch.
Blue cheese.
Thank you, Matt. Sorry, but
I
anti
hate-
ranch.
I
here.
hate
Blue cheese is just way classier, Bart.
It's so bad. It's moldy cheese.
Have you ever had true buffalo wings with blue cheese though?
Yes, I don't like blue cheese. Blue cheese is terrible.
God, the city of Buffalo is just hates you right now.
I'll eat buffalo sauce with no ranch.
Good luck doing a
That's
Crappie
fine.
Chronicles in Syracuse.
Yeah,
Anywhere in New York, Buffalo.
Their crappies.
Yeah, you're done. You're gonna
Yeah, we don't
insult
really
their
have
dip and their crappies.
we
Blue
don't really have
cheese
good crappies
sucks.
here.
Their buffalo sauce is amazing. Blue cheese is awful.
Okay.
I can't get behind it. All right,
The bitterness
that
cuts
was the
through
last.
some of the burn. Like the bitterness of the blue cheese counteracts the the
Yeah, 'cause you're
fieriness
a
of
pussy.
the
I
song.
like the burn.
Just throws it out. Oh, that's incredible. Gotta keep warm in the winter somehow, eh, Bart?
Hell yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So last question I got for you guys, and we'll wrap this sucker up. Is obviously you guys were tournament partners for this event, but say you go into St. Jude next year, you can't fish with each other. You can pick one person across the entire fishing industry to fish with. Who would you guys fish with?
Like, am I trying to win the tournament or am I trying
Corey
to
Hout.
have a good time? Yeah, shut up. I would have said Corey Hout.
I already picked him. He didn't say who went first. He's already taken.
I'll go with Brian. I'll go with his partner, Brian Harmon.
There you
He
go.
likes drinking beer.
Wait, do we have to go with like someone that we know that like is full time in the
You
industry?
don't have to. You don't have
I'm going
to.
with Corey.
For
I'm
people
going
who
with
don't
Corey.
know, Corey Houk and Brian Harmon have won like 4 Judes in the last 8 years. They are so good.
Fair enough. Well, okay. Let's put it in that perspective. One gives some good clout, but now let's say like somebody you're not worried about winning, but you just want to share a boat with for the day for that tournament.
I've never fished with Mercer.
Oh, that would be a shenanigans.
I think it would be an event that would be super cool to experience with Polnick.
Oh, that's cool.
I think that would be really fun tournament to fish and just a good event doing that with him. So that's in terms of in the industry, that's who I would pick. Realistically, if I could pick someone to fish it with, in terms of like to team up and like go do it down there, I would love to fish it with Joel Willard.
Do you regret asking me 3 years ago, Bart?
No, we won.
I know, but
I never thought I'd win that tournament in my life. Like, dead serious, that tournament is so hard to win, dude. It's like Sturgeon Bay Open. Like, really, it is a hard tournament to win. And
it was the smoothest team
fun.
tournament victory I've ever experienced in my life. Like it just was one of those things that was just meant to be.
We legitimately did not believe we won when we checked in.
We didn't stress out at all during the days. No. Nothing. Like we just went
rolled
fishing
around, had fun.
When we were idling in, I told Bart, I was like, I literally don't think we left a fish on the table outside of one that may have helped, but we don't know. I was like, congratulations. I literally said, congratulations to whoever beat us, because I think you had a perfect game plan and we put everything that bit in the boat. And you're like, yeah, you go, it'll be my highest finish in Jude ever. That's what you said.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get a top 5. Yeah. It didn't hit me that we might win until we had weighed in. We were walking back down to the boat. Corey Houk and Brian Harmon went through. They only weighed like 17 or 18. And then Eric Ronigan and Jimmy Johnson went through, and they weighed a small bag too.
Not the football coach.
And then I looked at the weights were getting put in the Real Live Well app, so you could tell where they were at. And I like looked at the app, and Pangrac was getting my truck, and all of a sudden my stomach and my whole body got the absolute most anxiety I've ever gotten in my life. Because I looked at it and I went, "Oh my God, we're leading by like 2.5 pounds right now."
And that's why he started pounding beers.
Yeah, he backed in. I pulled up, and he went to like pull off by everybody, and I said, "Take us back to the back lot. Get out of here." And he did. Awesome. He drove us back to the lot, and I was like, "Dude, we need to grab a beer." He's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Because I think we actually might win."
My girlfriend was watching everything up at the weigh-in, and there were like 2 teams that had like almost 24. And we were like, yeah, no, they haven't weighed in yet. And she's like, yeah, they have. And then we were like, crap, we probably got to get up there.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. That's cool though. Like there's something about it that's cool when it's unexpected. You know, there's times obviously you can see it coming, but something like that, like Bart, you're literally saying is you're taking out, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, literally like, oh my God, I think we're going to win. And I was still like, no way we're going to win. I'd never win this.
I literally, like, I was sitting there and like the last team that weighed in had like 14 something on the first day. And I was like, damn, they only need 29.
The record bag for the record is $24.98, and I'm still like, we're screwed.
Yeah. Someone's gonna
They
come
didn't
in
bite
with
at
5,
all,
6,
and the
or
whole
6,
time
5
I'm still like,
pounders.
no way.
Isn't that funny how there's some anglers? I mean, even this could be relative to sports though too. Like when it's not impossible, but like the chances of it happening are practically impossible, and that you're still just trying to like stay mentally in the zone of like, no, it could still happen. Like we could still lose this, even though like somebody comes in, you're on freaking Lake Norman.
Well,
like, oh,
I'm
he's
like
40
that
pounds.
because, dude, like I've hung out with Steve Price and Wright and Louie and like all these riders who like over their careers always have like one horror story of where they told a guy that he won and then he didn't. Like behind stage, they were like getting all his details and like literally congratulating him on the Bassmaster win. And then like some dude comes from 9th and freak shows it and wins. And that guy's like, what the hell? Like he had already thought he had won. People had told him he had won and then he didn't. And they're like, dude, they'll never do that again. So that's like the media guy in me going, no, it's not like even possible until it's actually over.
I didn't really fully believe we won until like that last team literally weighed in. And then we looked and we saw we were in first. And I still was like, there's got to be a correction or something.
Because then they huddled around up there for 20
like, something's
minutes.
wrong. There's no way. Who didn't weigh in?
That's awesome. Yeah, Matt, to your point on that, that's actually, it brings up a funny story from the media side, but also with my full-time gig with PR and one of the brands that I work with, being Johnson Outdoors and Gussie, was we having to get in the, you know the game where you got to get a jump on things, get prepped because you want things to come out in a timely manner. So I had the task of I had to talk to Gussie on day 2. We all know the day 3 that he had. So
when he caught 2 fish for 4 pounds.
2 fish. And so day 2, I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna ask you simple and make this super fast. We're not gonna talk about tomorrow at all. I'm gonna get what I need from you, and then that's
because he wanted to have all the details as soon as it was apparent he was gonna win, so you guys could boom, hit the ground running. Here's what he used, blah blah blah.
Exactly. So I think with us having the hockey background, it kind of helped understanding the whole superstition part and avoided that at all costs. But then I'm just sitting there that day 3, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel like such an ass. He's coming in with 2 fish. He probably hates my guts right now. Thankfully he won, but could you imagine if he didn't? That would have.
Bailey, you want to know? You said superstition. It made me think of this. So Panger knows exactly where I'm going to go with this. But I'm slightly superstitious, and this has 100% fed into all of my superstitions of the river. So I am by no means a river expert. Those river rats are insane. They've beaten me a ton. But I've had a fair amount of success there over the last 4 or 5 years now, slowly putting it together, and now finally this. But the last 2 years at the St. Jude, like I had check streaks basically going on the river, and then Matt showed up, and I had always stayed in this hotel like 25-30 minutes away from the ramp over in Wisconsin. And since Matt was coming, I was like, well, I want to hang around everybody and like have beers so we can be a part of the community and everything, So the last 2 years we didn't cash checks. So I told him this year, I'm like, dude, I'm staying in my Podunk hotel in Wisconsin. Like, we're getting back to the roots. And then like he flew in and he stayed at the same hotel that my girlfriend was staying in a room with her friend. And I still was
not
driving
with
back.
I was with my girlfriend. Not
yeah,
him.
he was with his girlfriend. My girlfriend was staying. Yeah, that was a good clarity. He was staying with his girlfriend in a room. My girlfriend was staying with her friend in a different room. But that was good. Yes.
Flip it.
But they're staying at this hotel in Wabasha, and I'm still driving back to my Podunk hotel in Wisconsin because I'm going. Like after day like practice, I was like, it's going good. And then after day 1, I was like, it's still going good. And at the end of the day, after we won, I looked at him and I said, guess who's staying in Wisconsin from now on?
Yeah, so it comes true. That's
yeah,
funny, dude.
we're staying back there. The check streak is back.
Don't you hate that though? Because you're sitting there, you're like, in reality, you're probably like, this doesn't matter whatsoever. But at the same time, what if it does? So I have to do it. Like it's. Just...
I will say, dude, when I stay in Wisconsin, my brain gets way more river ratty. Like I start running places I should not run. I just get way more confident there. Like, I don't know. There's just something about it, just crossing the border and staying over on the Wisconsin side. But
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, fellas, I really appreciate you both taking the time out. Congrats on, one, all the money you guys raised for St. Jude's, but also the dub, man. That's big pimping there. That's something not to balk at. And it's people are hunting for your head next year now.
Yeah. Pangrac will just roll into town night before again, and we'll see what happens.
Do you even want me to practice with you if that's a possibility?
Not at all. No.
Can I bring my boat and just fish Pepin?
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, if you brought your own boat to practice, 100%. I think that's a great idea. I would love that. But like, we practiced the 1 year together and we did terrible.
We didn't do terrible. We had like 22 pounds the first day.
No. That year you got there. The first year you got there at like noon or 11 a.m. the last day of practice. I picked you up and said, this is the pattern I'm on.
In Pepin.
Drove you to a spot. You threw a jerkbait, caught a 4-pounder. And I said, yep, we're not fishing up here anymore. We need to go try to find some of these fish in the current. And then we fished for 3 hours, went in, and it was registration. The second year you came,
horrible spots that year, though.
Yes. Yeah, they were not there. They were bad spots. And then we went and fished.
And then last year, the fishing just sucked.
Last year, it was in a weird fall transition. It was cold, and yeah. But all of practice, we did not practice very much. I'm be completely honest.
Yeah, no. Okay.
He got
I'm down with whatever.
Like, hey, let's go to the board. Let's go get some lunch. And I'm like, okay. We just kind of go do that and watch football. And all of a sudden, we're like, man, I don't really know where we should start.
Whatever you want from now on. Like, we're good. You want me to bring my boat up next year if I'm free? I can. I'll go terrorize the smallmouth in Pepin while you run the river.
Yeah. Yeah. I can give him a couple tasks and be like, just go handle this. But yeah, if you did that, that'd be fun. But otherwise, I'll just practice. I was by myself this year and it turned out pretty good. So
I'd say you got to keep the.
Wait, you are going to let me fish with you next year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was making sure.
You thought I was kicking you to the side. Who would you even fish with, Frank?
I have no idea.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I would have to raise more than you because I only know the 2 stretches.
I didn't even know if you could get there.
50-50. It's 2 left.
No.
No, left. Wait, left.
Don't say this out loud.
Right. To get to that backwater? Yeah, no, I can't get there. I couldn't get there right now. I mean, I'd have to do a little research on figure out how to get to all of our spots.
That's awesome. Well, fellas, I appreciate you taking the time out to hop on here tonight, and it was good to catch up with you both, but also to learn about the St. Jude's, and hopefully we'll see a first ever capped out event next year.
Yeah, that's what I hope. That would be awesome.
That's impressive, Bailey. 2-hour and 20-minute show.
Yeah, we've been having a few of them now. Now that we're down to, we're technically at 1 serious angler a week, but we split it in 2 and post it twice a week. So but yeah, 2-hour show. It's not bad. I appreciate you guys troopering through it. It was definitely a lot of fun talking about a whole bunch of random stuff. But appreciate you, boys.
Thanks for having us. It's good to be back.
Yeah. If you guys haven't and don't already, for whatever reason, check out Bart and Matt's socials down below, as well as links to the podcast, YouTube channels, things like that. In case you're not already, you should be. If you're not,
you post all that stuff in the description.
Yeah.
Holy cow, that's a lot of work.
There's got to be incentive to bring a guest on because I don't pay anybody to do it, but I try to at least.
Neither do I. I just say like today's show is just like
for
Matt
all you
talks
guests
with Bart.
listening. If you haven't heard, Passive Barb has a huge budget for bringing guests on, so we will pay you. Unlike the Serious Angler people, come on over. We'll have you.
And I don't even promote or pay.
Well, that's because you're BTL. You're top dog. Where Bart's over here playing with Monopoly money. Yeah, check out
the
you
mail.
pay
number
your
one
guest?
outdoor podcast in the world. Haven't you heard?
You pay your guests?
Yeah, he sends Monopoly dollars.
It was a
You
lot
would-
to get Aaron Weeb on.
Do you actually pay your guests?
Do you?
I love how rattled you guys are right now. I don't know. Do I?
I actually had a conversation totally on the topic. Here I am. Was trying to close it out 2 months ago.
We have the budget. We do not pay anybody.
I had a conversation with.
We don't have the budget either. That was a lie.
But on that topic, before we close out here, I did have a conversation about that. Of our anglers going to start requiring payment for coming on shows like that. Some of them said no, like in regard to some of it, no, but and some like if you're a classic champion, you get 75 plus requests for a podcast, that there might be some vetting or incentive needed, because when you have so many different things to do, you gotta, like when you get somebody, like my little crappy podcast that asks you to, and then BTL asks you, you're obviously going to prioritize the BTL over the small little crappy podcast. So it's
Not really. I had a sponsor one time tell me that they value, they're like, listen, like you look at a podcast or a video that has 150 views on it as opposed to one that has whatever 8,000. And he's like, you know what? He goes, if that same person had gone to Bass Pro Shops or anywhere, and 150 people showed up to hear him talk, that is a massive smashing success. He goes, so I don't care how many views it gets, as long as it's quality content that is engaging and reflects positively upon the brands and companies that they represent. So he views 100 views just as much as a 10,000 view.
I love that. That's awesome. I think that's a great way to cap this sucker off before we find another tangent that will go on for another 30 minutes. And it is 10:30 here, and my butt needs to get to bed. I got to get up and work in the morning. But for real, boys, I appreciate y'all. And hopefully we can do this more. And definitely I'm serious about that, getting some of the more podcast media side involved in the St. Jude's event next year, and have some little side competition. Have some fun with it.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, for sure. We'll be in touch. We'll figure out a way to get you guys involved.
Awesome. Sounds good, boys. Appreciate y'all. And we'll talk to you guys real soon.
See you, Bailey.
see you, Bailey. Thanks for the invite. Enjoyed it.
See you, fellas. All right, folks. That's going to wrap things up for tonight's show. Thank you again to the crew for joining. Obviously, again, we were captainless, and hopefully Andy will be back and feeling better for next week's show. But thank you to Garrett Paquette for joining us for the first portion. If you're listening to this on a Friday, check out the episode up from Tuesday with Garrett Paquette. It's on the MP3 side. But thank you to Adam Bartusek and Matt Pangrac for joining here. Long conversation, but really good to catch up with those guys. Bartusek's one that I never really get to see that often, if ever, honestly, through events, things like that. And he's kind of an OG, if you will, of Serious Angler from episode wise, but also being a part of fantasy fishing, and I'll give him full credit. Like the reason we partnered and had a relationship with Blackfish Gear is because of the connection with Adam. So big props to him. And, Matt is one I get to see for 5-10 minutes or so at a classic or an iCast, things like that. But both are usually rather busy and unfortunately don't get to spend that much time together, but is one that I look up to greatly in the industry and as a person. So it's good to get them back on here. And I know we've had them on some shows before, but always value that time. And it's always valued with you guys coming on and joining and watching, but also every guest that we get to get on here. So appreciate, each and every one of you. And that reminds me, before I cap this off, we do have our Blackfish Gear winner for MP3. So if you stuck around for almost the 2.5 hours here, our winner for the Blackfish Gear Sun hoodies we have here the winner on Apple Podcasts. It is Creek Runner 01. So Creek Runner 01, I don't know if you're watching live or if I'm assuming you're obviously on the podcast, you're an MP3 listener. But send us a email either at theseriousangler@gmail.com. It's in all of our show descriptions, whether it's YouTube or MP3. But send us an email or send us a DM on social media. You get to pick out which Sun hoodies you want, colors, sizes, and congratulations on winning that. And guys, we're going to have many more Blackfish Gear giveaways throughout the year. They really stepped up big time for us in that regard. So we get to hook you guys up with top-notch gear for basically every condition throughout the year. And we'll spread it out for different things, as we get closer to, fall, which I don't even want to think about fall in May. But we'll have more Sun hoodie stuff throughout summer. But when we get in the fall, we'll do some gloves and bibs and winter jackets, things like that. We're going to do probably some rain gear next. So stay tuned for that stuff. We're going to make it different for each giveaway to give you guys different chances to enter. And Blackfish Gear will not be the only ones that are going to be stepping up for a giveaway regard to give back to you guys. So appreciate y'all. If you guys have not gotten in your Lake Murray Bassmaster fantasy fishing picks yet, it's not late to do so. Event starts in 2 days. We had our fantasy fishing episode last night that previewed our picks. If you haven't listened to that yet, highly encourage you to. And then beyond that, we have had a great episode of Business from the Bass Boat yesterday that dropped with Rich Lindgren that was previewing some of the economic impacts of the Midwestern Bassmaster Opens, as well as talking about the fishing. I believe he's fishing that. If you guys don't know Rich Lindgren, he's hella bass. Does some great fantasy fishing stuff as well, but also just great fishing content in general. But nonetheless, appreciate y'all. Make sure you guys take advantage of some of the different sales and things like that we have going on through our show partners. Links are always down below if you guys take advantage and save some money. And Jim, before I go here, we got a good comment from Jim. Breathable rain gear. Yes. So we're actually we'll do a couple different rain gear giveaways this year. We'll do one that's more for your, heavier, colder weather, which we'll probably do that as we get closer to the fall when some of those, fall storms come through. But we do have Blackfish Gear actually just dropped recently some new rain gear. It's basically a jacket and pants. So instead of bibs, it's actually pants, super lightweight. I was wearing this past weekend where it was 70 degrees and raining, and it was perfect. It's exactly what I need. It's kind of almost like a windbreaker on top, if you will, but all waterproof, and the pants are perfect. So we'll have that be given away, I'm sure, next. But keep listening to these shows and follow us on social media. And you guys will obviously be up to date on when that stuff's being given away and how to win it. So appreciate each and every one of you guys. Share Serious Angler around. There's a lot of shows out there these days, and they're all do a great job. But appreciate each and every one of you that keep along and are loyal listeners or watch whatever you're from YouTube or MP3. But at this rate, I am just starting to ramble. But either way, I just want to say thank you guys. You guys are amazing. We'll see you all next week. Peace.